Quick test for the sound before we start. And it is fine. Lovely stuff. Let's get straight into this then. We've got 500 meters to go before the start of stage 13, and we are back and we are live once again. Here we go then. 300 meters to go, and apparently the race radio is ahead of my stream because they're talking about an acceleration by Wout Van Aert. So seemingly Van Aert wants to get into this. Let's see if that is the case. I will see it to believe it, if that is the case. I am just going to move the viewer count across. Highly doubt we're going to get 1,000 viewers, but we are underway. And it is Lotto Destiny who are starting the attacking, and a big group of riders want to get in on the action. We will see if a big group goes, because they certainly didn't last time. There was a big fight for the breakaway. Chris Nylands and Tom Schoens are in it, so plenty of Latvian representation today in the breakaway. Ryan Gibbons is also up there, Schoens' teammate for Little Trek. And this might mean for an interesting stage, indeed, TB. I am going to move the viewer count back because I totally forgot that chat was on that side. So that's the chat box. I want the viewer count, please. I mean, this is going incredibly well already. We have a 7-man breakaway that have dislodged themselves from the peloton. So we've got a big move. Last time it was just 2 riders that kicked off the attacking. 1, actually. It was Cavendish, who was joined later by Gashinart for Total Energy. However, it looks like we've got a bigger group, and it's Jacob Alula trying to either get a man in it or control. And Jonas Vingegaard is slowly slipping into this breakaway. Very interesting manoeuvre from Jonas. And what is the thinking behind that then? I don't know where this will go. Do you know what? I'm just gonna hide it. There. That makes it a lot easier. And there. Cool. Right, so up we go to the head of the race then. And we've got 2 EF riders up there, Rui Costa being one of them. Neither of them have kicked off the attack this time, however, and it's Alpecin Koenig on the move. That tells you a lot about their belief in Jasper Philipsen. Kevin Genietz, one of the figureheads of the breakaway formation last time out, is in the breakaway again on stage 13. And he's got 3 riders alongside him and 2 riders bridging the gap across. And this is Mathieu van der Poel going now. So Alpecin Koenig clearly want big hitting riders in this move. Paul Lapeyra tries to get across. He's closed down immediately by Bahrain Victorious. And so do a Lotto Destiny want some representation in this break as well. I'm trying to figure out who that is. It looks to be Brent Van Meer, I think, trying to make the move, and it is. So Van Meer, even though he's got Van Halke's headshot, and he has had Van Halke's headshot for the whole Tour de France, has manoeuvred his way into this breakaway, which is ever increasing. Paulus is in the move, as is Kevin Genietz. Jonas Abrahamsson in the King of the Mountains jersey is also represented in this breakaway. And more riders are clipping off the front and trying to get into the morning break. Obviously, we saw with Intermarché Wanty that they wanted to have a good breakaway up the road to put pressure on Jasper Philipsen. However, I think the pressure will be on them today because of Biniam Girmay's latest results. Schoens is in this move as well for Little Trek, so he's persistently up there. Israel Premier Tech do have representation, as do Astana. So a lot of the sprint teams have riders up the road. One of the teams that don't, however, is Intermarché Wanty, and they've got to chase this one down because it's a big, big group that are up ahead. And at the moment, the only thing that this is doing is applying pressure to Biniam Girmay. So how do you play this one if you are Intermarché Wanty? Total Energy are on the radio saying, come on guys, today there'll be a lot of riders who want to move. Big riders. It will cost us energy, but the breakaway will be worth it. So they believe in the breakaway. Kwiatkowski is one of the riders in the move as well for Ineos Grenadiers, as is Matej Mohoric. So they are right. Big riders are getting into this breakaway. Marijn van den Berg, EF sprinter, has also found his way into this move, as of Jakob Fuglsang and Ugo for Israel Premier Tech. Frank Vandenbroek, the man of the moment on stage 1 of this tour, is also in this move, which has 10 seconds on the peloton, and it's Decathlon Ager Desert who are trying to chase this one back, because it's a big move full of big riders. Davide Ballerini, Magnus Kort as well, I haven't said, have made the breakaway, as has a Visma Lease-A-Bike rider. So where do UAE go from here? What they have done is followed with one of their riders. Arnaud Delis has also made it up, the Belgian national champion. One of the most colourful and easy to spot kits has slipped into this breakaway, along with a teammate in Brent Van Moor. And it is Adam Yates who's moved his way across. So this is a little bit dangerous for Visma Lease-A-Bike, with Yates 7 minutes down overall. But we've got a real race on our hands to start with. You see Delis and Adam Yates. Indeed, Jan Tratnik's the Visma Lease-A-Bike rider, and Biniam Girmay at the moment is following moves to try and get into this breakaway. Riders are still clipping off the front to try and get across, and at the moment, leading the way is Niels Eekhoff for DSM Firmenich PostNL, trying to get up to his fellow teammate Frank Vandenbroek, who's made the breakaway, and there is another DSM rider in a chase group of 6 that are trying to make their way across to this front group, and it is a heavy, heavy front group. It's all kicking off. I think Oya Lazcano has made it into this group as well. Romain Gregoire for Groupama FDJ. He's got Kevin Genietz, the Luxembourg national champion. So we've got 2 national champions and a world champion in this breakaway, along with the King of the Mountains jersey, who has been the real breakout star of this Tour de France, Jonas Abrahamsen. And suddenly, if you're not in the breakaway, which I think some teams aren't, but not too many, you've got to get a rider up there, because this breakaway is going to go. I fear that this is one of the sprint stages that the breakaway are going to take, because there's plenty of interest and plenty of teams that want to get in the moves. You expected more from Arenberg, honestly. Yeah, Spanish champion, and hasn't showed the kit off too much. Did a big ride as well in the Spanish National Championships, going away alone for a vast amount of the race, with a late attack, or an attack midway through the stage. Lazcano was good at marking stuff and ended up finishing second on the day. And there were some riders that you didn't expect to be up there. One of the Polti Cometa guys, who apparently was an amateur, was in the second group until he crashed. So perhaps it wasn't the standard of opponent that at least I initially thought. But yeah, I expected more from him in the sprints, and especially with the opening couple of days and the hillier stages, I expected him to be up there as well for those, but those went to the breakaway, and I'm glad they are, because I'm a big fan of a breakaway stage win. Romo's been a blast to watch though. Yeah, Javier Romo has been really cool. He's a rider that's kind of been on the radar for me, but not in the centre of my attention for a long while. And he's a guy that has a lot of pure power. He's kind of similar to Abrahamsen in that way. But yeah, he's a really cool rider. Was at Astana, of course, before making the move to Movistar. Former triathlete as well, I think. And has clearly taken to cycling. But anyway, this breakaway has 15 seconds on the peloton, and you've got a chase group in between the two. It could be a Jasper Tat with the way this breakaway are cooperating together. Van den Broek just pulls off and offers Mathieu van der Poel a turn. He also shoos away the motorbike, so clearly there is DSM Firmenich PostNL representation in the chase group. I want to say Christophe Laporte is in that chase group as well, but it looks like it's not going to work for the chase. They're gradually being reeled in by the peloton, which is now at 20 seconds. It's a chase group of 3, and I don't think it's going to make it across. He's been crazy in form this year. Yeah, I agree with that. This has been the closest to a breakout year we've had for Romo, and I think with his age, he's far from the finished product. Like he's 25, and I think because he's been a late starter, like his first season in cycling was 2020, and I think he was on Astana in like 2021 immediately, kind of picked up by him. But yeah, he's got a long career ahead of him. I think he's going to have a real big winning season, maybe next year or the year after. Either way, Jayco Alula are on the front of the peloton, and they might have been one of the teams that have missed it. I've not seen an orange, and I'm going to call that nettled green jersey in the breakaway. What I have seen is Mathieu Bergerdo latch onto the back of the breakaway group, so Total Energy did get on the radio to say you must have a guy in the break, and they have done just that. Van der Poel continues with a pull on the front, hands over to Davide Ballerini. Ugo Ull sitting in as well. Matej Mohoric is there, gravel world champion, along with the road world champion in this move. And I don't think Visma Lease-A-Bike are too happy either, because they have sent reinforcements to the front. Most notably, Wilco Kelderman is there, as well as Bart Lemon, trying to control this breakaway. I don't think they're happy with Adam Yates being represented in this breakaway. Not too many riders in the break are at under an hour behind, but Adam Yates at less than 7 minutes is going to be a problem if this breakaway gets a big gap. We've obviously seen a couple of years ago with the likes of Pollitt winning from a breakaway on a flat stage kind of similar to this. The breakaway got well over 10 minutes, nearly 20 I think on that stage, so they don't want to see Adam Yates in the yellow jersey or up with Jonas Vingegaard, I think, and that is why they were on the front, but they've handed the reins back over to Jayco Alula, who have pretty much the whole team lined out on the front of this peloton, just to make sure that they can get a rider in this move. But I think the move will have gone. Axel Laurence is in this breakaway as well for Alpecin Koenig. Rui Costa, Paulus and Van den Berg are your EF representatives. Brent van Meur's in there, along with his Belgian counterpart Arnaud Delis for Lotto Destiny. And UAE are just monitoring the Jayco Alula pace at the moment. But at the moment, you've got a group that are working very, very well with each other. Julien Bernard has made this breakaway for Little Trek. Of course, a man who's been active in breakaways recently at this tour as well. On the Puy-Marie stage, which was won by Jonas Vingegaard. Bolens is in the move as well. That is a massive rider for Lotto Destiny to have in this breakaway. A real engine. So they've got Berlens and Van Meer in with their designated sprinter, Arnaud Delis. So, who has made this breakaway then? Total Energy have made it, I believe, with Bordeaux. Uno X have made it with Abrahamsen and Magnus Cort. Astana have made it with Ballerini. DSM have Frank Vandenbroek, of course. Intermarché have not made it into this breakaway, so they've not got a rider, but they seem content with letting the breakaway go. This breakaway will turn the stage around. I expected it to be boring as heck. Yeah. And that's why I enjoy a breakaway on a flat stage, because suddenly you have this different scenario where you're not looking at recent sprint results, as Juan Ayuso is having a real problem staying with the pace in the peloton at the moment. Kobe Hosen's putting his left arm around him. So it looks like Ayuso is struggling, perhaps with illness, because that has been rampaging through the Tour de France at the moment. But yeah, you have now a scenario where you've got a lot of untested riders in the sprint and a lot of race scenarios that can now play out. You could have a small group come to the line. You could have a solo rider go to the line and a bit of Group 2 dynamics. You might have a mass sprint with the breakaway riders, but you've got so many scenarios now from the breakaway being there, which should be very fun to watch, so keep it locked. Jared Drisner's is towards the back of the peloton. Not at the back, because that spot is reserved for Juan Ayuso. Drisner's, of course, went down in the crash that involved Primoz Roglic yesterday, and Alexei Lutsenko as well. And he was one of the worst in terms of his state after that crash. Didn't move for about 2 minutes. Had Maxim van Hils waiting alongside him just to make sure he was okay. But he is starting the race today. Whether he'll finish it is another question, because he's at the back of the peloton right now with Louis Vervaeke of Soudal Quickstep alongside him, as well as Movistar's Gregor Mühlberger. I think Vervaeke and Mühlberger will be fine, but certainly Ayuso and Jared Drisner's will have a very difficult time this stage, especially with Jacob Alula forcing the pace on. But at the moment, the gap is 28 seconds. The breakaway gradually increasing their time gap over the peloton, and they've got to keep working together to make sure that this move goes. It does have big sprinters in it. Arnaud Delis, Marijn van den Berg, Mathieu van der Poel, among others. Magnus Cort as well could cause some problems. But that is the situation at the moment. Nico Denz as well towards the back for Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. But you've got a real array of riders in this move. You've got GC riders in the form of Adam Yates at the very least. You've got classic specialist Mathieu van der Poel, Kevin Yates, Tom Schoens, etc. Kwiatkowski as well. You've got hill specialists, Fulsang, among others. And you've got pure engines like Berlins, Van Moor, Mohoric as well. As one of the Total riders is being distanced is that Bordeaux, who fought so hard to get across into the breakaway. But he is totally bonked. I think it might be Bordeaux, and it is. So Bordeaux fought incredibly hard to make it across to the breakaway, but has been spat out of the back. And I think he'll now have a very difficult day. He'll be alongside, I reckon, Drisner's and Ayuso. But the peloton is vastly thinned from the pace by Jacob Alula. They have got it strung out. The whole team is there trying to control this, as well as Bart Lemon for Visma Lease-A-Bike. But this is a super interesting scenario, and the kilometers are being ticked off hand over fist. Just over 150 kilometers to go. We obviously had the neutral rollouts in Agen. And we are on the road to the eventual finish of today's stage. We'll get a look at the profile now. And this is what we've got today. Agen to Poel, 165.3 kilometers. We've already done over 15 of those kilometers. 2 Category 4 climbs on the route, which is why Jonas Abrahamsen's made it into the breakaway, because he can take the King of the Mountains jersey for good at the end of this stage, as long as he takes one of those Category 4 climbs in first position. But we finish in Poel. We've got a sprint in Nogaro to come, and we started in Agen, which was a start town for the Tour de France in 2000 on a stage won by Paolo Bettini. No real Italian sprinters present at the Tour this year, at least competitive ones. Probably the best option, thinking about it off the top of my head, would be Alberto Bettiol. But he's not in the breakaway, so he's probably not going to have his hands up come the end of today's stage. Ballerini as well is a useful sprinter on his day for Italy, but of course he'd be usually in the lead out for Mark Cavendish. At least now he's in the breakaway, he's got a chance. But I suppose you can throw him into the melting pot of sprinters that you've got in this move. Likely as an outsider. But it is still Jaco Alula applying the pressure to the front of the peloton and trying to close this gap to the breakaway. Bart Lemon as well as taking the occasional turn. But at the moment it's the likes of Michael Matthews and Christopher Juliensen that are on the front. Soudal Quickstep, I believe, have missed this move as well. I don't see any of their riders in the breakaway. So going back through it, Intermarché have certainly missed the move. I didn't see an Arkea B&B Hotels jersey in this breakaway. Who else? Cofidis might not be in this move. Soudal definitely aren't as well. Decathlon Age Desert I don't think have anybody in the move either. So there are plenty of teams actually that have missed this. Who do I want to win the stage? That's a great question. I do put together a little ones to watch before each stage starts. And here are mine for today, at the very least. These are just ideas for riders to keep an eye on, or at least riders that I'm keeping an eye on come at the end of today. And I was expecting it to be a sprint finish, but with the breakaway as big as it is, I think it's going to be a breakaway day today. But if it does come to a sprint finish, I'm looking at Luca Mozzato of Arkea B&B Hotels. I'm just interested in what he does compared to Arnaud Démare, because Arnaud Démare is clearly their better sprinter, or the sprinter that they prefer. I think Mozzato is the better sprinter, hot take, and that they should be riding for him. So I'm intrigued to see what his role actually is in the sprints, because he's certainly not the last lead-out man. That's reserved for Dan McClay, who is an elite lead-out man, and probably one of the best in the peloton. But I think if he was leading out Mozzato, he would have got a better result than they did yesterday, which was obviously a relegation, so that's fairly obvious. But I think they would have done better at this Tour de France if they had Mozzato as their sole sprinter. Anyway, the man who was second yesterday, or was he? Yeah, no, he was, because Démare was relegated. Wout Van Aert of Visma Lease-A-Bike is another one that I'm monitoring. How well has he recovered from the crash? He's obviously said he's recovered well, but can he string two sprints together? And finally, Danny Van Poppel, with Primoz Roglic out of the race. Red Bull Bora-Hansgrohe might have to avert their objectives to stage wins, and I think they're going to be very exciting in the mountains, with the likes of Jai Hindley, Bob Jungels, Mathieu Sobrero as well is still in the race. They've got some real hitters in the mountains. But they've got Danny Van Poppel in the sprints as well, and he's got a pretty decent lead out to use up. Nico Denz, Marco Haller, Jungels and Sobrero probably will be involved as well. So they're going to have diverted their objectives, and with Roglic out the race, I think it provides at least a decent chance for Danny Van Poppel to try and do something today. Anyway, from the breakaway, let me have a look at who is in this break. You want De Lee, TB? I'd enjoy a De Lee win. I would enjoy a De Lee win very much. I'd also fancy... I'd like Brent Van Meer to do it, but obviously he's leading out De Lee just for the Victor Companarts vlog. I'm a fan of Kwiatkowski. I like Tom Schoens. Mohoric is a decent guy as well. If I could pick a dream winner from this breakaway, I would go for... I think I'd go for Schoens. It sucks they didn't bring Jordi Meus. Yeah. They've not brought Meus. They've not brought Sam Welsford as well. So they've kind of gone with a third choice sprinter. Certainly a first choice lead out rider. I need to update this actually, because it's not showing any race time. There we go. Anyway, the gap is still growing to this breakaway. 33 seconds. And it's Wilco Kelderman that is pacing on the front. No PCS. It's Wilco Kelderman that's pacing on the front for Visma Lease-A-Bike. And the pressure is being applied to Visma. This is the first time we've really seen Visma Lease-A-Bike under the cosh here, because Adam Yates has snuck into this breakaway. And although they've got Jan Tratnik in the move, they need to keep their wits about them, as Quentin Pache is hanging on to the back of this peloton. Of course, the most combative rider from yesterday in the four-man breakaway, alongside his teammate Valentin Madouas, as well as Abrahamsen. Who was the other one? I'm trying to think now. Racked my brains. Was it Turgi? I think it was Turgi. Short-term memory. 34 seconds, and the peloton are shifting. 76 kilometers an hour at the moment for the peloton. But at the moment, the breakaway are going quicker because the gap is increasing. Current world champion Mathieu van der Poel hands over to former world champion Michał Kwiatkowski. He was world champion in 2014, of course. Back when he was at Quick-Step. But at least you've got a couple of riders who are monitoring and working well together. Schoens is one of the riders who doesn't like to take a turn in these breakaways. And certainly EF look like they are pacing for Paulus and Rui Costa, which is weird because you'd think they'd be going for Marijn van den Berg. But Van den Berg's slightly distanced from his two teammates, so I'm not sure what the plan is for EF, who haven't had a great tour, I must be honest. Even with Carapaz in the yellow jersey, I did expect better from EF so far in this race. They've just had some very weird tactics at times. Anyway, Abrahamsen's upping his likelihood of getting the most combative rider of the race by being in this breakaway. It's yet another stage where he's in the move. I think he's been at the front of the race for well over half of this Tour de France in terms of kilometres. And I mean, look at that number of kilometres in the attack. 650 compared to 277 of Oya Lazcano. As towards the back of the peloton is Bruno Amirai. He's been fairly persistently at the back. I think he's a rider that likes to sit at the rear of the peloton and just see how things are going, monitor the race. And the race at the moment has been absolutely on fire. 46 kilometers an hour average. And we've got teams being put under pressure. A lot. 42 seconds now the gap. And this looks like a lost cause for the peloton. This looks like it's going to be a breakaway day. But it is up to Visma Lease-A-Bike, I am guessing, to control this because of the threat of Adam Yates in the breakaway, who is working, so he is taking turns. I thought he was getting a free ride to begin with, but maybe not. As Van Meer pulls over, hands over the front of the group to, I almost said Battistella, but it's the other Italian on Astana, Ballerini. Julien Bernard now getting involved for Little Trek, as is Philipsen, so you are getting increased participation now in the breakaway. I think they know that this is going to go, so they're all working together. Mountain stage -1 of fitness on the onus in the game. I'm cooked. Which stage is it, TB? As Magnus Cort takes his turn on the front, the man with the moustache. The Jonas Vingegaard was growing. And obviously attributed his stage win to the stash. But it's still Jaco Alula who continue pressing on. Luca Mezgec and Luke Durbridge have come to the front, but it's a lost cause for me. There's no chance of this coming back. Ineos have sent Ben Turner to the front as well, and Wout Van Aert kicks, so he begins a move now for Visma Lease-A-Bike. I think it's an upping in the tempo, but it looks a bit like a team attack, which is quite incredible from Visma. And it is a team attack. This is incredible. And they've pulled out a gap. What a stage this is turning out to be. The winds are blowing. It's over 20 kilometers an hour. And the echelons are forming. Visma have lit it up thanks to Wout Van Aert. They've got Jonas Vingegaard in the group. They've got Laporte and Benoit there as well. Tadej Pogačar just about made it across. But the crosswinds are blowing. Seemingly. Because the echelons are forming. At the moment, it's a 9-man group that have gone away. And it includes the top 2 in GC. Where does this put everybody else tactically now? I'd like to see the composition of the chase group. But it is kicking off. Jorgensen is in the move. As is Joao Almeida. And Victor Campenaerts and Ackermann are also in the chase group. So you've got Ackermann, Campenaerts, Almeida, one of the Red Bull Bora riders. Jorgensen, Benoit, Laporte, Van Aert, Vingegaard, Pogačar, which is a stacked chase. But at the moment, a couple of teams have come to the front of the peloton are trying to do some chasing of the chase group. But at the moment, the road between them is getting longer and longer. Laporte now comes to the front and does a turn. Pogačar sat nicely in the group. I don't see a Red Bull Bora jersey in there. So actually, I think it is just... as Remco's in there as well. So Remco's the Soudal Quickstep rider that's in there. It's Campenaerts, it's Ackermann, Pogačar, Evenepoel, Vingegaard, Laporte, Benoit, and Van Aert. I think, is the composition of that group. Here we go. Vingegaard, Benoot, Jorgensen, Laporte, Van Aert. Pogacar is definitely in there. Campenaerts is in there. Evenepoel, Almeida, and Ackermann. Well. What a stage we've got on our hands here. And they are making their way across to this breakaway. The gap's gone down from over 30 seconds to 23, 24. And it looks like Ayuso is cooked. TB was saying he's got COVID. Crazy that it's known today. Yeah, he's not looked brilliant in the last couple of stages. Most notably on since Puy-Marie stage, where he did that incredibly short turn and then was dropped. And he's out the race, so that alters things again in the GC. So on 2 sprint stages, we've now had 2 changes to the top 10 of the general classification. And that promotes a certain Derek G now to 9th overall. I'll bring up the general classification shortly, once everything's died down, because this race has been on fire. Your dad's dream team's cooked. I didn't do a fantasy team this year, and I might have paid for it a little bit. I think it would have been a good segment on the stream to review the fantasy team. But I forgot to do one, so nice job me. Tarbes, Courtrai, Cambasque is your TDF stage. Intriguing. You're on season 2026, stage 14 of the TDF. Is that pro team or pro leader? Anyway, we get a view of the front of the group at the moment. They are frantically looking behind themselves. I'm sure they've heard now on the radio the news of the chase group and how powerful it is. Yates, you'd think, would want to continue pacing to try and keep this chase group away. But Campenaerts is getting involved. Campenaerts is taking turns. Nobody has shouted expletives at him, like on the gravel stage, where he did want to take turns, but one of the GC contenders shouted some words at him, some rather sour words at him, and that meant that he was not going to pace anymore. Allegedly was Roglic or Simon Yates. But either way, Voxnor's taking turns, which is massive for Visma Lease-A-Bike, and I think tells you a lot about the contract he may be getting next year from the team. In the Netherlands, we have different kind of 100 points, 13 riders. You can move one from the bench to the start. So like fantasy football here, where you've got a bench that you can rotate. Intriguing. Top 20 gets points. Tourmalet time for you now. Enjoy that, because this stage has been equally enjoyable. But that's Ayuso gone then. So that is one fewer rider that UAE Team Emirates have. It is their first abandon of the race. Visma Lease-A-Bike continue to have a full squad of 8. But that doesn't prove too great, especially with Pogacar having COVID going into the race. Ayuso having COVID in the team bus. Not a good sign. But here we are then. Tratnik has dropped back from the breakaway to the yellow jersey group. Visma Lease-A-Bike are continuing with this strategy of trying to get Jonas Vingegaard into the leading breakaway. You've got it on your TV. Cool. So you're kind of duo watching, which is nice. That's kind of how I'm doing it at the moment. I've got it on my TV, and then I've got Pro Cycling Stats on my laptop that I'm streaming from, which is why it is a little bit laggy at times. Anyway, now that we've died down, let's have a look at GC heading into this race and how the Juan Ayuso abandon affects it. So here's the GC. Tadej Pogacar leads the way. with Remco Evenepoel in second on 1:06 down in the general classification. Jonas Vingegaard, we've got to remember, is in third. He's not in second, even though he sees Pogačar as his main rival. And I'm sure him and Remco will switch at some point in this race. But Vingegaard's at 1:14 behind Tadej Pogačar. João Almeida at 4:20 in fourth. Carlos Rodriguez at 4:40 in fifth. Mikel Landa at 5:38 in sixth. And Adam Yates, who's in the breakaway, is the last rider under 7 minutes. He's at 6:59 in seventh. Juan Ayuso is now no longer eighth overall because he's dropped out, which promotes Giulio Ciccone now to 8th position on 7:36 entering today. And Derek G of Israel Premier Tech, the Canadian who had a Streets Won't Forget Dauphiné this year, is now at 7:54. Stage winner, of course, in the Dauphiné as well was Derek G. So he's now up into 9th overall. And what a race it's been for him so far. He's not necessarily been as active as I thought he would be, but it looks like he's trying a GC bid to see where he stands compared at least to the rest of the race and the rest of the GC contenders. This is going to be a tour that Derek G will learn a lot from, I think. And it's going to be a tour, I think, where we'll see either him turn to a rider that goes for stage wins from the breakaway, or a rider who is going to go for GC for the rest of his career. So as 1G leaves us in Geraint Thomas for a Grand Tour general classification rider, another G joins in, this time Derek G. He's got 2 of his teammates in the breakaway at the moment in the form of fellow Canadian Ugo Uhl and Jakob Fuglsang, a man who used to be a GC contender in his peak while he was at the likes of Astana, and used to be a very good GC rider. Not necessarily a winner, but certainly was up there in plenty of Grand Tours. Won the Dauphiné twice in his career as well, but did finish in the top 10 at the Giro d'Italia and the Tour de France, and was one of the great domestiques for Vincenzo Nibali. But the chase group have been caught. So back to the front come Jaco Alula, trying to chase this one down. Visma Lease-A-Bike have spent some bickies trying to chase this breakaway, which has 30 seconds still after all of that. The breakaway still in the lead, and this is the first of Geraint Thomas I've seen from the front of the peloton camera, at the very least. So you got Geraint Thomas at least getting involved. Thomas, a rider who's been very quiet during this Tour de France. The only time I've properly seen him is with Romain Bardet on the stage that went uphill, the Jonas Vingegaard one, stage 11, I believe. But this is Geraint, who looks like he's about to do a turn at the front of the peloton. Get ready to record your screens, folks, because this is the first time we have seen him acting as a serious teammate to Carlos Rodriguez. But the peloton cuts away to show us L'Église de Pudena. So I think we're going to miss this Geraint Thomas turn. Or the Chateau, they've just corrected it. I assume, I've got the Eurosport feed up at the moment, I assume Jonathan Harris-Bass is going in detail about this Chateau. I'm sure been very interesting while doing so. But to be honest, as somebody who's watching on mute right now, I'd love to see Geraint Thomas at the front of this race. You've got a little bit of a climb coming up fairly shortly, kilometre 38 into the race. We've obviously done just under 36. So that might be a place where Visma want to light it up once more. Let's see whether that is the case. But they've got to be careful going through this village. There are a couple of tight bends and a little bit of road furniture to negotiate. But I think everything should be fine because the peloton is absolutely lined out. I don't think it's from the pace of Geraint Thomas. Yves Lampaert was towards the front as well for Soudal Quickstep, who of course don't have representation in this breakaway. Neither do Visma Lease-A-Bike now. They've brought Jan Tratnik back to try and pace Jonas Vingegaard up to the head group, but it did not work. So I think this is already, apart from stage 11, been the best breakaway fight of the Tour. Am I wrong? Arnaud Delis taking a couple of turns on the front, the Belgian champion for Lotto Destiny. So he's now taking it upon himself to try and extend this gap. I think perhaps he knows what's coming in the next kilometre or two. But what a situation we've got. And the race is flying by. We're going at 49 kilometres an hour at the moment. And our next place on the map of note, at the very least, is the intermediate sprint into Nogaro. We'll have a look at the other classifications heading into today, before the intermediate sprints, and here they are. Remco Evenepoel is in the white jersey, of course. Carlos Rodriguez in second in that classification. And of course, Juan Ayuso no longer third. That now goes to Matteo Jorgensen at 7 minutes and 50 seconds behind Remco Evenepoel. As we get some slow-mos. So Jorgensen at 7 minutes 50 for Visma Lease-A-Bike is now third. Carlos Rodriguez in second for Ineos Grenadiers at 3 minutes 34. And Remco Evenepoel is of course wearing your white jersey for Soudal Quickstep. Biniam Girmay is in the green jersey and has almost sealed it now on 328 points. Jasper Philipsen is just over 100 points behind. And Anthony Turgis doing better than Peter Sagan did in the Total Energy team on 141 points in third. He has missed this breakaway though, as we're going to get a team radio from Ineos Grenadiers, which says, for me, keep collaborating with Quickstep at the front of the peloton if you can. Talk to Quickstep and Visma and keep collaborating. They also don't want Yates in there. So of course, Adam Yates being in this breakaway means trouble for the other teams with GC riders, as Elmar Reinders goes a little too far off the front and drops back to Christopher Juhl Jensen, who is continuing to pace at the head of the peloton. And that's the man they're worried about. Adam Yates, 8th overall, now up to... is he up to 7th? Never mind, he's ahead of Ayuso on GC, I believe. You lost another minute at the end because the game's not been nice. Solid. As Van Aert is off the back. Has he done his job for the day, or is he going to make it back? Takes a bottle from the team car with his strapped up left arm. Took the bottle with the right arm. Stuffs it down his jersey. Then takes another bottle from the team director, Mr. Marson, and he's just off the back of the peloton, so he's making it back fairly easily. His cyclocross rival, though, is in the breakaway, Mathieu van der Poel. And we've got just over 125 kilometres remaining in the stage. They're going to Matt Stevens, who's doing an interview with the Ineos Grenadiers team car right now. But I won't be able to hear it, unfortunately, of course, because I've got it on mute. But let's have a little look at the route in slightly more depth. I kind of had it up for a couple of seconds and then took it off screen immediately. Started, of course, in Agen, famous for their rugby, actually. Home of the rugby union team SU Agen, who have won the French Rugby Union League 8 times, which is pretty crazy for a population of just under 35,000 people. Intermediate sprint in Nogaro after 88.5 kilometres. So we've still got a while before that point, and we've got 2 Category 4 climbs on the route. The Côte de Blachon, 1.5 kilometres at 6.9%, and the Côte de Simacourbe, 1.8 kilometres, 6.4% on average. And a couple of short climblets before we head into Poel after 165 kilometres. Not the longest sprint stage. We've now, of course, finished the sprint stages of over 200 kilometres. So no more serious slogs in the legs. At least on flat terrain. We've got plenty coming up in the mountains as we head towards the Pyrenees. I reckon Pidcock will win this one. Copium. Yeah. As a Brit, he's kind of... There was a moment where he was the main British guy. Of course, that's kind of gone back to Cavendish now. But yeah, he's not really at the forefront of British psyche anymore. But I'd like to see him win a stage, obviously, in the Pyrenees. I think he's an exciting rider in the way he races and has plenty of personality, so he's an enjoyable rider to watch, but I think he'd be better suited as a teammate for Carlos Rodriguez, at least for now. You just realise the new kits are there in the TDF game, but when you're on the ceremony for the stage win, they still wear the old kits. Great. Nice. That's one to report to the devs. Classic cyanide moment. As Sobrero wants something from the Bora-Hansgrohe team car. The Red Bull Bora-Hansgrohe team car, should I say. Going through the town of SOS. And at the moment, well, certainly earlier on in the stage, that was the call from Visma Lease-A-Bike. Because they were really not happy with Adam Yates being in the breakaway, and still aren't. So much so that they did a Tour de France game style team attack to try and get across. Lit it up in the Crosswinds with Van Aert. But that has proved not to be fruitful. And the gap is now up to beyond 50 seconds to the breakaway. I think it's going to be really difficult for the peloton to keep this breakaway in check. Sobrero is back on his bike, back underway. He's going to be one to watch, you'd think, in the mountain stages. A rider who had a brief cameo, but an important cameo at Milano-San Remo. Almost stole it in 2024 with a little attack off the front. But in the end it was brought back to no avail. But there was a brief moment where I thought Sobrero was winning it. Anyway, let's have a look at what everybody was saying after the previous stage, stage 12. It's something we like to do on the channel, and I've got plenty of people within the race who have given their thoughts on stage 12. Now we'll start off with the news of the dropouts. We had one more to add on to this before today's stage started, and we've got one to add on during the stage. But before the stage started, moments before, we had the news that Jesus Herrada was out of the race, which is another rider from Cofidis who will not be finishing the Tour de France. We saw two riders on the same stage, stage 11, finish not outside the time limit, but withdraw from the race. Jesus Herrada did not start today for Cofidis, so he's one to add on to this list of withdrawals. But the rest of them, Poel Bilbao of Bahrain Victorious, who's looked pretty bad the last couple of days, certainly. 3 riders finished out of time. Yevgeny Fedorov of Astana Kazakhstan was in a group that included Søren Kragh Andersen and Jonas Rickaert, so Alpecin König's sprint train has been vastly reduced with those 2 losses. Fabio Jakobsen stepped off the bike early on in stage 12 for DSM Phonik Postenel, so that has now opened some opportunities for the likes of Bram Velten and John Degenkolb to give sprinting a go for DSM. But that's certainly their main sprinter out of the race. And this one in the corner is the man we're going to talk about, at least for the next minute or so. Primoz Roglic came down fairly badly on his right shoulder in the crash that involved Alexei Lutsenko of Astana Kazakhstan. He was the one that initiated the crash, but Roglic was the main rider to go down and could not continue this morning. And this was what Rolf Aldag, the director sportif of Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, had to say. And he said that Primoz has had his shower. Now the doctor's looking at him. This was about 20 minutes, I think, after Roglic finished. He's cleaning his wounds and is trying to find out what the medical status is. I think from then on, we all breathe in. There's a big disappointment, of course, from everybody involved. For now, the most important thing is Primoz himself as a person, not the result in the Tour de France. We hope he's okay and that all the work and training was not for nothing and that we can somewhat continue. We really didn't see the crash. In the car, you just hear crash, crash on Radio Tour, so I've just seen a glimpse of it on the bus. We don't know anything about it, so I can't really analyse the crash right now and blame or say who's at fault or why the crash actually happened. But it did happen, and that's a fact, and we have massive consequences from the crash. The time loss is completely irrelevant right now. It's the person, Primoz Roglic, who's relevant right now, and not the time loss. He's in the bus, and I've spoken to him. He's not to comment right now. He's cleaning his wounds, and it's important that the doctor speaks to him, and not me. And the actual result isn't known, because Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe kept fairly quiet on the extent of his injuries. Aldag confirmed this morning that it was not a concussion and that it was not a fracture. But in the tweet that came out from Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, they basically just said he's stopping the race to go and focus on objectives later on in his season. So, no real update on the condition of Primoz Roglic, but it's not a concussion or a fracture. So that's good, I suppose. So yeah, the tweet read, Primoz Roglic underwent careful examination by our medical team after yesterday's stage and again this morning. The decision has been taken that he will not start today to focus on upcoming goals. Of course, we wish Primoz a speedy recovery from his injuries. Again, a real fighter, but for me, he's a rider who kind of does it himself, or puts it upon himself. Like, you don't crash that much without something being inherently wrong and it just not being only bad luck. But yeah, it's unfortunate again that Roglic's Tour de France has been curtailed by a crash. But that's the situation as we look at the Red Bull Bora-Hansgrohe team car. So Roglic is out and the race moves on. Everybody moves up in GC a position. Some 2 positions now that Juan Ayuso is out of this race. But we continue. And after the first hour, we're going at over 48 kilometers an hour. Currently, we're doing over 50 on average, and the gap to the peloton is now a minute. It's the first time we've hit the minute mark in the gap between the breakaway and the peloton, which might be massive because suddenly it's no longer seconds we're talking about here. So what will that do to the chase? It will certainly dishearten the front of the peloton. And I'm trying to see who's leading it at the moment from the helicopter shot. It looks like Ineos Grenadiers are towards the front. But at the moment, the riders that are putting in effort are Cofidis with Simon Geschke. Yves Lampard as well as there for Soudal Quickstep, as are Decathlon Agi Désert, who we are about to hear a team radio from. And this is what the team radio says. As we said in the meeting, guys, this morning, it's 3.5 hours full gas, but we can have a really good result. Come on, guys. I assume that was before the breakaway went, because at the moment, they are not looking at a really good result. They are looking at the opposite of a really good result. Of course, their sprinter is Sam Bennett. Want to keep an eye on if it does come down to a sprint, because he's been in and around the front of the race, along with the likes of Pascal Ackermann, who's having a little bit of a resurgence. It's been both of the former Bora-Hansgrohe riders who have had quietly improved Tour de France's. As Tim Wellens seems to have a problem with the radio and is getting that changed from the team car of UAE Team Emirates, but the gap is over a minute. 1 minute and 1 with 115 kilometers to go. Arcadia B&B Hotels are also pulling. So yes, some of the teams without riders in the breakaway, and some of the teams who are threatened by Adam Yates' GC being in the breakaway. Hello Mika, how are you doing? It has been a ridiculous stage, and I am incredibly glad I watched it from kilometre 0 because it has been on like Donkey Kong. But who's going to be crowned king come the end of today? Will it be Mathieu van der Poel? Will it be Arnaud Delis? Will it be Marijn van den Berg? Will it be... I almost said Battistella again. Ballerini. I'm not doing too badly, Mika. I'm glad I'm doing this again. I was kind of on ridiculous form in prepping for this stream. So I think the week or so off has been good to me. But yeah, I'm not doing too badly. And I think I'm only down to miss one more stage. So I'm going to be doing every stage, hopefully, on stream. Your theory, last kilometre, everybody in the peloton will fall except for Johannesson, and he'll win the Tour de France until he wins the sprints. How's that going to work if everybody in the peloton falls except for Johannesson, yet Delis wins? I assume you mean Dele wins the stage with Johannesson as 2 riders, and then Johannesson wins the GC as a result of being ahead, right? Is that what we're on about here? But it looks like the peloton is gradually knocking off their tempo. George Zimmermann having a discussion with the Intermarché 1T car. They're one of the teams who've missed this breakaway. But the one positive they can take out of it is the fact that Biniam Girmay will not be conceding any points to Jasper Philipsen in the green jersey battle, which I think is less and less becoming a battle. I think Girmay's pretty much got it sealed, as long as he doesn't crash. Arkea are saying Ineos must ride. There are some GC teams that need to ride. Soudal must ride as well. They cannot let Adam Yates go for the podium. They've got to ride on the front of the peloton. So Arkea BNBL Tolls know what they're doing. And I think they've only sent, that might be Mozzato, to the front. One rider to do turns, but it is absolutely lined out. It's back below a minute now, the gap between the breakaway and the peloton. 56 seconds. Pretty bad time for Stevie Williams to stop for assistance from the Israel Premier Tech team car. But there we are. Surely Biniam's already won it at this point. I don't see, Mika. I don't see anybody beating him. He has actually been the best sprinter of this tour as well, so I'm glad the green jersey is going to the best sprinter of the race. 3 stage wins is ridiculous. I'm already thinking about the tier list. He's going to be up there. I was going to do a tier list of the aesthetic of the jerseys, but it might not be on this stage now, especially given the race situation that's going on. Maybe if it calms down after the intermediate sprint, we could try and draft up a quick one. But I'm not sure whether to save it for another stage now, where, like, maybe in one of the mountain stages the breakaway goes, or maybe even in the time trial we could do it, like, go on from the first rider off the ramp, and then just do the tier list during the time trial when all of the, like, sprinty guys are going. Zimmermann has a musette full of bottles that he's going to deliver out to his teammates, I am sure. So he'll be on his way to do that. And I will take a brief feed shortly, because the race, I'd say, is dying down, but the gap between the breakaway and the peloton is shortening. The breakaway's still working well together, but starting to feel a little bit of pain in the legs, and more teams coming to the front of the peloton is a bad sign for the leading group. Groenewegen taking turns on the front of the race says it all. And it shows you that the breakaway are cooperating, because even Groenewegen is doing his turns. But yeah, it looks like a real entertaining stage. At least for the next hour or so, minimum. But will it have a good winner? That's opinion, of course, but I hope it does for my sake. Thinking about it as well, you've got 3 world champions in this breakaway. Mohoric, the gravel world champion. Van der Poel, the world champion. Axel Laurence, the under-23 world champion. I'm sure we can find, like, former achievements from everybody else. Kwiatkowski, of course, is a former world champion as well. So it is an incredibly stacked palmarès from the breakaway riders. I'm not sure how many stage wins are in this breakaway, but I reckon it's certainly a few. Adam Yates, has he won one? Trying to rack my brains now. I think he won one. Oh, of course, he won the first stage of last year in the two-up attack with Simon. Frank winning the stage? You mean Matthias Frank winning the stage? Absolutely. Frank Vandenbroek. No, I don't see it. I don't see it personally. Matthias Frank, maybe. I think Matthias Frank has more of a chance of winning the stage than Frank Vandenbroek. Pidcock and Van Aert are behind the peloton. I did see that. I think they'll make their way back up. I reckon they were both looking for assistance from the team car. But Van Aert's been back there a couple of times now, and it's starting to worry me. Does Mathieu still exist? No. Well, he's still alive, of course, but not as a professional rider. The man retired, and he did a brief spell as director for, the Swiss national team. I wonder whether he'll get picked up by Tudor or something as a sports director when they get to World Tour. Because I think it's kind of like in every sport. It's not necessarily the guys that are elite riders become elite directors. Imagine if Ben Healy became a director, that would be sick. Maybe not for the riders in his team, who will be worked to within an inch of their lives, but certainly fun for the viewer. Anyway, Van Aert's made it back onto the rear of the peloton. As we go through Gabaret. Not got any information on this town. I probably would if I did proper notes heading into this, but I'm kind of doing it all off the dome, as well as what I can see on my screen right now, which is what you can see on your screens. Just the PCS Live page. Anyway, Yates has one stage win in this breakaway. Kwiatkowski's won stages at the Tour. Tom Stroins, I hope, will. Matej Mohoric has won a stage at the Tour. Mathieu van der Poel's won stages. Rui Costa, I believe, has won a stage of the Tour de France as well. Could be wrong. Of course, former world champion as well. We are stacked with world champions in this breakaway. Wowza. Has Philipsen won one? That's a question. I'm not sure. Ugo Ull, of course, has won one for Israel Premier Tech. Magnus Kort's won one. So yeah, we've got loads of stage winners in the break. Loads of stage winners. And I think that adds to the drama, because we've got riders that know how to complete it from a breakaway. Ugo Ull, of course, did it in 2022. Back when Jorgensen was on Movistar and chasing him. Crashed on the descent, Matteo Jorgensen. The final descent to the line. But Ugo Ull did it in a solo move. We've seen Van der Poel do it on the hills. We've seen Kwiatkowski do it in mountains. Yates has done it on rolly terrain. It's all kicking off. Ineos Grenadiers on the radio say talk to Remco and tell him that if they put 2 at the front and Visma do as well, we can work with G and Castro and get 6 on the front. So Geraint Thomas and Castro Viejo being called to the front to work at the head of the peloton. They want Soudal Quickstep and Visma Lease-A-Bike to offer riders as well. Philipsen was class in your TDF 2017 game. That would have probably been not his pure peak. Probably a couple of years before his prime. His prime was what, 2019? But yeah, I'm doing a little video essay at the moment on the 2010 Vuelta, and we're about 4 stages in, and at the moment he's in the red jersey. So he has worn a leader's jersey before at a Grand Tour. That was in a team time trial though, so it was kind of handed to him. But you've got to be at the front across the line in a team time trial to win the jersey, so them's are the rules, I guess. 50 seconds to the peloton with just over 105 kilometres remaining I am going to have a brief snack, and I'm going to mute up as well, so you won't be getting some ASMR eating on stream if you're into that kind of thing. It will probably be about 30 seconds. Just to get an energy gel down me, you know, take a feed bag and let the race run out for a bit. So, yeah, see you in about 30 seconds. Right, I'm back, and we are in Le Département du Gers now. I think Soudal Quickstep have heeded the request of the Ineos Grenadiers and have sent Yves Lampard back to the front to continue working with Geraint Thomas and Jonathan Castroviejo. Visma Lease-A-Bike have also offered up one rider. And TB's off to cook some eggs. If he's still here, what kind of eggs? What is his preference of egg? Is it boiled? Is it fried? Is it scrambled? Maybe Mika could have a word, a say what he thinks TB is gonna have. Does he have it with toast? Does he have it with what's his plan? Could have been 2020 as well. I reckon Philipsen would have been very good on the TDF 2020 game. Well, no, he was very good on the TDF 2020 game. I want to say he was like 80 overall or something and had crazy mountain. Because of his 2019 season, so that would make sense that he'd be good on 2020. Would be nice to have a co-host for the streams. Yeah, maybe I could pay Matthias Frank or something to turn up on a Discord call and just talk me through the race. I wouldn't do any talking though. That's the problem. I'd just witness his incredible voice, leave him to it. I'd get starstruck. I've totally gone rogue. 103 kilometers remaining, less than 103 now, and we've got an average speed of 50 k's an hour. We are well into the race, and the next stop will be Nogaro for the intermediate sprint, which will be played out amongst the breakaway riders. You've not really got anybody that's towards the top three in the sprint classification. The closest rider on pure feel, I suppose, would be Abrahamsen, maybe De Lee as well. But I think it's Abrahamsen who's closest. I shall look that up. And it is Jonas Abrahamsen who is closest. He's on 124 points in 4th position. So if he wins the intermediate sprint, he jumps back up into the top 3. Goes above Anthony Turgi. So there is an incentive there. Arnaud Dilly is on 114 points. And must be bordering on mathematically out of it now. But Geraint Thomas is on the front of the peloton. He's got Simon Geschke sat behind him, who is now unleashed at the front. And with him is Bruno Mirai of Decathlon Agen. So we do have involvement from 2 of the French teams as well, who are wanting to bring this back so they can get somebody in the move. So you've got a real melting pot of teams working with each other at the moment, contributing 1 or 2 riders. As we go past the Ubi Lake. Nice looking lake. A couple of canoeists as well out there. Looks a bit like Centre Parks with the little lodges and houses and stuff set up by the lake. And they've also got a pool, so this is clearly a tourist spot. And that's my attempt at Jonathan Harris-Bass. Of course, he does a much better job. Actually does his research on this sort of thing. I probably would have had I had time, but some time is precious. And I'm not being paid for it, so there we are. I also need to put these on YouTube afterwards. I forgot to do that with the first 5 stages, and now they have disappeared from my Twitch channel. So the first thing I'm doing when I've completed this stream will be whacking it up on the second channel. But the Breakaway continues to press on. They've not got an extensive gap, but they continue to work with each other. Dan McClay squeezing past Dylan Groenewegen in the interview area that I'm watching on a small screen at the moment. Of course, McClay has been subject of plenty of talk after the relegation of Mark Cavendish, which we'll get onto, I think, hopefully at least, later in the day. Because we do have plenty of riders to go through who've been speaking to various English-speaking media. I've taken some bits from Flow Bikes in Canada, some bits from Eurosport, some bits from ITV in the UK, to give you a kind of taste of what everybody was thinking at the end of yesterday's stage. And it was scheduled to be another sprint day today, but that may not be the case, because the gap has been gradually descending for the last 20 or so kilometres. And it's been thanks to the GC teams and a couple of the French teams for getting onto the front. Total Energy did have a rider in the Breakaway in the form of Mathieu, but he was the first to drop. He really put a hard effort in to get across on his own and paid for it. So Total don't have anybody in the move, but they have not done any pacing on the front of the peloton. So they're benefiting from this, as are Intermarché Wanty, who, again, are not doing anything, but are having the gap pulled back for them, which could be perfect with the intermediate sprint gradually rearing up on the Breakaway. We're well over halfway through this race now. At least this Tour de France, I mean. We're heading towards halfway through this stage, with 97 kilometres remaining. 48 seconds is the gap between the Breakaway and the peloton. A Breakaway which continues to roll through with each other, but it's really looking marginal now as to whether the Breakaway makes it to the line. Stevie Williams has had that untimely mechanical, and Pascal Ackermann's trying to bring him back. or he's on the wheel of Ackermann, should I say, at the back of the peloton. A peloton that is still fairly strung out, and a peloton with one rider less after Juan Ayuso withdrew from the race due to COVID. Has been feeling rough the past couple of days, but this was the final straw, and the pace at the start of the race had him out the back, and he stepped into the team car. So that is one rider fewer for UAE Team Emirates, but they do have one rider in the breakaway, and it's the rider that's the centre of attention for the peloton. They're not interested in any other rider apart from Adam Yates at the moment. The gap did get to over a minute, and then panic set in, and the gap has plunged by 10 seconds. Did get down to around 45, but has gradually eked its way back up. As we've got an attack from Magnus Cort, so this is intriguing. Now, what does the breakaway do? So Cort is trying to break up this lead group, and he's being followed by Julien Bernard and Kwiatkowski at the moment. Adam Yates is on the radio, probably asking what he does in this situation. The answer is nothing, as Gregoire tries to make it across for Groupama FDJ to try and make a group of 4, and it's up to Arnaud Delis now to do the chasing. Brent Van Meer probably should get himself to the front for Lotto Destiny to try and pull a turn, but at the moment he's struggling on the back of the race. He's got Abrahamson, Genietz, and one of the Alpecin riders, Laurence, on his wheel. But he's got a big job now as domestique for Arnaud Delis to bring this one back. And it is a group of 4 talented riders. Magnus Cort, big flat ruler. Romain Gregoire, comfortable on all terrains, as is Michał Kwiatkowski, who is also a motor on the flat, if he needs to be. Julien Bernard, a bit more of a mountain climber, but decent engine on him as well, and a rider who has been involved in breakaways. A little word with Magnus Cort, Kwiatkowski and Gregoire. But we have a breakaway of 4 now, and the race situation changes once more. They've got 12 seconds on the chasing group, and a minute now on the peloton. So the attack has worked in increasing the gap, but I don't think it's worked in increasing the firepower, because you've still got a very deep chase with multiple riders from multiple teams in there. EF still have their 3 riders in the breakaway: Rui Costa, Nielsen Paulus and Marijn van den Berg. You'd expect Costa and Paulus to go up and chase this quartet at the head of the race. I don't know why they've got Case Boll down as an attack on Pro Cycling Stats. Complete Romain Gregoire erasure. But seemingly, Magnus Cort had enough and hit out on an uphill false flat. Julien Bernard was first to react. Kwiatkowski got onto the wheel of the Frenchman, and a fellow Frenchman, Romain Gregoire, has joined them. We've got a group of 4, but the gap's staying fairly constant at just over 10 seconds. And this is not what the breakaway needs at the moment. They need the whole group to be contributing and increasing the gap, but more riders are attacking now, and to kick it off, it's Brent Van Meer. Whether it's an increase in tempo or an attack, I don't know, but it's certainly distanced Neilson Paulus, who's got a fight on his hands to make it back. The gap is growing, and still growing, and the American is in trouble. So Paulus is the first to be dropped from this breakaway since Mathieu Bergedal, which feels like ages ago now, based on all of the action we've had. But two of your Tour de France stage winners are in this leading four, Kwiatkowski and Magnus Kort. Matt Stevens is on the motorbike, nattering away. He's not been bad on the motorbike, I think, so far. But Paulus is feeling bad because he has been dropped by the chase, and that gap is ever growing. It's going to be a real mental battle now for Nielsen to try and make his way back to that second group on the road, and it's Brent Van Meer that's still lining it out. He's got Rui Costa on his wheel, who you'd think would not take a turn because Paulus has been dropped. So it's a pure mano-a-mano battle, seemingly, between Van Meer and Neilson Paulus. We've got less than 20 kilometres to the intermediate sprint, which I don't think is at the forefront of anybody's mind in the breakaway. Intriguing though that Uno X were the instigators of the move, especially with Abrahamsen the best placed in the breakaway for the green jersey. I'm sure he will have accepted those 20 points gratefully. I'm not sure though whether he would have been challenged by Vandenberg or Arnaud Delis. But at the moment, it was Arnaud Delis' teammate, Brent Van Meer, that has distanced Neilson Paulus, who still dangles at between 7 and 8 seconds behind the breakaway. Or behind the group ahead, should I say. The peloton is now at 1 minute and 16, so it seemingly was clear that although riders were taking turns, the pace was not up in that leading group. And we've now got a committed quartet that are pulling hard and pulling away from the chasing group. So the situation changes once more then. And now we've got 4 groups of note on the road. One of them being Neilson Paulus on his own in what's seemingly going to be a chasse patate. The peloton led by plenty of teams who have an interest in the day and in the breakaway. Whether that's getting a rider in the breakaway or whether that's monitoring riders in the breakaway, as Wout Poels is out of the back. But the winner yesterday was a certain Biniam Girmay, and we've got plenty of quotes from the team at Intermarché Wanty. We'll start off with Mike Turnison, who said, "It's amazing. It's like a dream for Binny, of course. The first stage win was already an unbelievable victory. The second one was a nice confirmation. And now I think he's really showed he's up there with the best sprinters in the world." Binny was the only one up front after the crash with 12 kilometres remaining. We were all in between or behind, so it was a big effort already for me and Lawrence Rex to come back. Luckily, I still found him in the final kilometre and could bring him to the front. It wasn't perfect, but he was that good that he finished it off anyway. I think it's a confirmation that he's up there with the world's best. We all know that in the second stage he won. It was perfect for him, an uphill hard finish. But also in the relatively easier sprints, he shows that he's up there. It's a really nice job, and it shows how good of a rider he is. So high praise from Mike Turnison for his teammate, as Robert Hayes is with the medical cart. He's just been discharged and makes his way onto the rear of the peloton once more. But the breakaway out front continues. They've got 25 seconds on the chasers. And those 25 seconds will be quite a distance on the road because they are seriously shifting as mechanical for Phil Bauhaus, Bahrain's lead sprinter, in a tour that has really been one to forget for Bahrain victorious. They do have Matej Mohoric in this breakaway. Mohoric, a rider who was as well in the early breakaway on stage 1. But it's not a great time for a mechanical. Nobody wants a mechanical seemingly in this race because it has been on from kilometre 0. Nearly 50 kilometres an hour on average. As we've got 10 kilometres to go until the intermediate sprint in Nogaro. And at the moment, it will be played out among the leading 4. I don't think they'll have any involvement. I don't think any of them will go for it. However, Magnus Kort might do it for giggles. Kwiatkowski, I think, will firmly want this breakaway to keep working with each other, the professional that he is. But it's still a big job for the peloton, and it's a really intriguing stage. It's not one that's full of incredible, memorable moments. There have been no, big crashes or major attacks or GC action. But the situation that is ever unfolding has been one of the best to watch, at least for me, in this Tour de France so far. This is already looking like the second best stage of the race, in my opinion. Less than 86 kilometres remaining then. 1 minute 24 to the peloton, who will shortly see Nielsen Paulus up the road. He's at 44 seconds behind. And your big chase group is at 35 seconds. Your big chase group that involves Adam Yates, who is the key rider that everybody in the peloton is watching. Less than 7 minutes behind overall. It's been a thorn in the side of Visma Lease-A-Bike today. Clever tactics from UAE to put Visma on the back foot. And finally using their numbers for a positive reason, at least. As mechanical for Laurens de Plus receives a new bike from the Ineos car. Hopefully this time it's the correct bike for Laurens de Plus. When he crashed with Wout Van Aert just prior to the intermediate sprint on one of the early stages, he was given the wrong bike. But we'll see if he has the correct one. You should do. You've definitely learned their lesson. You're back. What's happened in the time that you'd gone? So Magnus Kort has attacked the breakaway, and he's brought Julien Bernard and Kwiatkowski with him. Gregoire did a little bit of a bridge while the gap was about 5 seconds, 10 seconds on his own. So you've now got a breakaway of 4. The big chase group, I think, you're going to gradually get reeled in by the peloton, because that has totally ruined cooperation in the chase as the quad attack. So you've now got 4 riders up the road. The peloton are continuing their pace. You've got a lot of GC teams on the front. Ineos, Soudal, Visma, and a couple of the teams that don't have riders in the breakaway. So Decathlon Agen Desert, Arkea B&B Hotels, Jaco Alula. And I think that's been the situation. Nothing else has really happened. Nothing in the way of crashes or anything. But Magnus Cort has basically exploded this breakaway. But either way, it has been a tremendously entertaining stage. $83 kilometers remaining on my stream. If you want to sync up, it's just ticked over now. 45 seconds is the gap to the chase group. Well, they can't sync up on Twitch, can you? Thinking about it. As Nielsen Paulus is a minute behind. He's been dropped from the chasing group. I think it was just a kind of lapse in concentration that turned into a gap, that turned into a bigger gap. So he's kind of been dangling off the back since you've gone to make your eggs. TB. Bauhaus making his way back through the cars. And is currently drafting his own Bahrain Victorious team car. I can't see the peloton from the motorbike camera that's sat behind him at the moment. But we've got 5 kilometers until the intermediate sprints for the leading quartet. As Paulus has now been reeled in by the peloton. So you've got 4 ahead, then 16 riders in the, what I'm calling the big chase group. We'll call it the group Yates, I think. Just because he's the most notable rider in that group. And 1 minute and 24 seconds to the peloton as I boot my TV controller against my radiator. So the chase group now under 5 kilometers to go. I think I would call them the chase now that Paulus has been reeled in. And it means we're down to 2 EF riders in the breakaway. Rui Costa and Marijn van den Berg. Van den Berg, the sprint option, which looks ever unlikely. Ever more unlikely, should I say. But the race continues, and it continues at a frighteningly quick pace, which I'm sure is not going to slow down through the intermediate sprint in Nogaro. Of course, we've seen Tour de France stages in Nogaro before, only once, however. But that one time was last year, when Jasper Philipsen won, I believe it was stage 4 maybe, of the 2023 Tour de France on the Nogaro motor circuit, I want to say. That was a day where Fabio Jakobsen fell, and there were just loads of crashes. I think because of the oil on the racetrack from all of the car and motorbike racing on there. I think the circuit was designed for motorbikes, but you do get the occasional car race on there. But yeah, the Tour had never passed through Nogaro before last year, so 2 years in a row, and I think this is a little bit of a statement from Nogaro that they're going to get involved in the race more frequently over the next couple of years, so get used to our sprint town of the day, which is coming up in just over 2 kilometers time. And it's going to be contested between 4 riders Michal Kwiatkowski, Julien Bernard, Romain Gregoire and Magnus Cort. I say contested. I don't think any of them are going to be interested in sprinting for it. They're probably just going to roll over the line. But it's going to be soon, I suspect, that the peloton will start seeing the chase group, and that's going to give them a lot of hope. So you've had half of the stage of break formation, and in the end, only 4 riders are going to have made it up the road after such a huge effort. But those will be the winning 4, who will take the prize money and the points across the line for the intermediate sprint. Two French riders in the break, Bernard and Gregoire, as well as Axel Laurence in the chasing group, of course. We did have Bergerdo in that chase. He was the first rider to drop. Paulus was the second. Both have been reeled in by the peloton. Be interesting to see Mathieu Bergerdo's situation, whether he's out the back or not. Will it be a battle with the time limit for the Total Energy man, the Julien Alaphilippe regen, as the Breakaway approach the Flamme Vert for the intermediate sprint? 20 points will be handed out to first position on the road, but none of these riders will be challenging Biniam Girmay in that green jersey. So there's no incentive points-wise. There might be an incentive prize money-wise for a couple of the riders. A cool couple of €100 in the pockets. But at the moment, it's Kwiatkowski that leads the way with 500 metres remaining until the intermediate sprint. Gregoire sat in second wheel as Kwiatkowski hands over to the young Frenchman. Magnus Cort now is on the wheel of Romain Gregoire. Prime position to try and take it off him. Gregoire continues, 200 metres remaining to the intermediate sprint. And it looks like Gregoire will just ride it through. Magnus Cort did cause friction in the chase group, but does not cause friction in the breakaway, with Julien Bernard going across the line in second, and Magnus Cort taking 15 points in third. And there is some motor racing going on at the Circuit Paul Armagnac. Looks like a track day, seemingly, not a properly organised race. But nice to see it in use. And of course, fond memories if you're Jasper Philipsen of this place. I assume it's on the French touring car calendar. These lads on the circuits better have the tour on their little touch screens. As the chase group makes it through the intermediate sprint, with Arnaud Delis leading them through it. And now the peloton are within sight of the chase. So that is going to be a big morale boost for those riding at the front of the peloton. The likes of Geraint Thomas, the likes of Jonathan Castroviejo, among others. They've got 1 minute and 5 seconds to close if they want to make it to the whole breakaway. But they've got 10 to 12 seconds to shut if they want to make it to the chase. So they're through the intermediate sprint in Nogaro. And the next stop will be the categorised climbs. But we've got a while before then. We'll be going through all sorts of quotes and the like from yesterday's stage. Do a bit of a diagnosis on sprint deviations and all sorts. But we will save that for shortly later. 76 kilometres remain. And it has been an absolutely fire stage so far. Chance for a little breather there. And another chance to get your head around where the race is at the moment. Jonas Abrahamsson got 9 points in that intermediate sprint. Tom Stroins beat him to the 10. So he moves up, or doesn't move up, should I say. Moves up in points, but not in positions, to 4th. Arnaud Delis rises from 6th to 5th with his 11 points for going over in the lead of the chase group. So Delis still after some easy points. But there we are. Let's have... I was going to say a chat. We're not chatting with Frans Maassen directly. But here's what he said after yesterday's sprint stage. Frans Maassen, director sportif of Visma Lease-A-Bike, said during the stage, Wout Van Aert told me he felt good, so he was allowed to take his chance. Things aren't going his way in the Tour for now, but we're relieved that he was able to sprint for victory again. The day after crashing, he had the legs to win today, and that is a positive for us. I'm also relieved we were not involved in the big crash 10 kilometres from the line. We were well in front as a team, so we could escape it, although it was hard to see Primož Roglič lose time. Of course, Roglič, formerly of Visma Lease-A-Bike, and a rider that took them from what was a middling team in the World Tour, just off the back of Belgian and various other attempts post-Rabobank, Blanco. But he joined them in the Lotto and El Jumbo days, got them the Tour de France stage win, and had given them many good memories. So yeah, it must kind of still hurt for them to see that happen. But your chase group and the peloton are going to come together. The breakaway was fun. You're absolutely right, TB. It was the most fun breakaway formation that I've seen, at least if you take out stage 11. Stage 11 was pretty cool. I think in terms of the actual goings on from within the breakaway, I'd say it was probably the best we've seen at the Tour. As Jonas Abrahamsson hits out, he's followed by Poel Ascano. That is two riders you don't want a gap between. And once again, it's Brent Van Moer who is trying to close this. Abrahamsson still wants a piece of the day from the breakaway. Van Moer hands over to Van den Broek. And you do have a coordinated chase. Stroins wanting to bring this one back. He's got Julian Bernard in the lead of the race, remember, for Little Trek. And this is Arnaud Delis now attacking. So Delis makes a move. And it looks like it's goners for the chase group. It's now only down to those that desperately want something. And at the moment, that is Tom Stroins, Frank Van den Broek, Rui Costa, and one of the Israel Premier Tech riders who are following Arnaud Delis and Poel Ascano. Ascano seemingly just marking the moves, not really engaging in a chase per se, but this breakaway group continues to shatter. It all started when Magnus Cort seemingly saw all of this coming before the intermediate sprint, with around 20k's to go until you hit Nogaro. And he jumped before he was pushed, seemingly. And he jumped with Julian Bernard and Michal Kwiatkowski in the wheel, Romain Gregoire making it across to make a group of 4, and more riders from the chase group want to try and join them. And at the moment, that is Rui Costa, Poel Ascano, Arnaud Delis. Looks like Stroins has been slightly dropped and is trying to chase it back. But at the moment, he's bringing the whole rest of the chase group with him. And that was an attempt in vain for Arnaud Delis. Lotto Destiny went all in for the breakaway, and it's Ugo Ull now that launches the next one. Off of the back of the Arnaud Delay attack, he continues his pace and rolls off the front of the chase group. So who will want to try and bring him back? At the moment, nobody. But it's Brent Van Meer now who comes to the front once more, followed by the Luxembourg national champion, Yates. I was thinking this when he was in the breakaway yesterday. Really useful rider to have on these flat stages in the breakaway. A real classic specialist who can get over rolly terrain. And quite an underrated rider, I think, in the World Tour is Cavendish. Got some sleeper results in the big classics. But a rider I quite enjoy watching, and somebody I think doesn't get the flowers they deserve on Groupama FDJ. But the peloton continues their chase of the Adam Yates group. And it's Visma Lease-A-Bike still contributing riders. Jaco Alula have come back to the head of the peloton and are continuing to try and pull this one back. They've got Dylan Groenewegen in the race as Astana get on the radio to say, Jace Ball, make sure you stay alongside Cavendish. We start looking after Cav. There's a good chance this race is not finished for the sprinters yet. So they believe in Mark Cavendish as they are about to make contact with the breakaway. So Adam Yates being in that break was superb for the spectacle of the race, but he's now been reeled in by a Visma Lease-A-Bike led peloton. Ugo Ull continues to press on with Brent Van Meer in the wheel. Rui Costa as well is there with Vandenbroek and Abrahamsen, but it looks like that is that for your breakaway group. And you are left with 4 riders in the lead of this race. Christopher Juhl Jensen towards the back of the peloton, looking for some assistance from the Jaco Alula car. But with 69 kilometres remaining, the gap is 1 minute and 4 to this quartet up the road. Kwiatkowski, Bernard, Gregoire, Court. Court is something that the chase group have been. So now we only have 2 defined groups on the road. But there's still plenty of time in this stage for something to happen. It has been a thrilling 95 kilometres in the books and incredibly enjoyable to watch. You can tell because we've barely done any of the interview segments. Usually, if it's a very dull sprint stage, we do plenty of interview stuff. But for now, that is not the case. I think we'll start doing it fairly shortly because the peloton has widened, which means the tempo is totally out. And Visma spent a lot of energy, but have done their job and chased this one back. But UAE Team Emirates have gone 1-0 up, I think, with that. They've used one rider to drastically reduce the energy of plenty of Visma riders. So yeah, that's an early lead to me for UAE Team Emirates in the battle of the GC guys. I'm fairly certain that I would not be saying that on this stage, but there we are, as Brent Van Meer spat out of the back of the peloton. He's tried his hardest today for Arnaud Delay. But at the moment, his hard work wasn't enough to keep his group away. And the peloton and the chase have rejoined. So, of course, plenty of talk in the sprint stage yesterday was about our winner. Obviously, Biniam Girmay making it the Tour de France hat-trick in 2024. But you had two riders relegated after review from the commissaires, one of which, Arnaud Démare, which we will get to, but the other was Mark Cavendish. We've not got him directly for an interview or a little bit of insight, but we have got Mark Renshaw, who, of course, ex-lead-out man at HTC High Road for Mark Cavendish, later moved on to the likes of Rabobank. But he's, of course, Astana's sprint consultant now and has masterminded that 35th win for Mark Cavendish. But here's what he had to say after stage 12. He said, "We're obviously very disappointed in that sprint because we think it was a solid earned 5th place from Mark Cavendish. There were 2 decisions in the final that the commissaires panel had taken. One of them affects us. Cavendish is really upset with this decision, as I and the team are. There are many reasons for that sprint. If we really analyse this move and break down this last 50 metres, we can see that Dan McLay is leading out Arnaud Démare, or this 50 metres, should I say, not last 50 metres. Renshaw says if you stack it up against the white line, you can see that Dan McLay is parallel around 0.8 metres to the right of the white line. He finishes his lead out and moves to the left. My estimate is around a 1.5 metre movement to the left, but he stops pedalling. I'm sure Thierry Gouvenou, former rider and now has a highly regarded role at the Tour de France, but I'm sure Thierry Gouvenou in the first meeting of the day said, if you're a lead-out man and you stop pedalling, please keep pedalling. So I think this move by McLay, completely stopping pedalling, probably deserves more of a sanction than what Mark Cavendish deserved. Especially I, as a lead-out man, knows that if you stop pedalling in a sprint like this, there will be a reaction. Vicky, I can't stream the race personally. I'm somebody who likes to err on the legal side of things. But there are places to watch with VPNs and various other stuff. I just don't want, as TB's saying, I don't want the Eurosport copyright strike. There are people who do risk that, and I'm sure you can find them. But yeah, I don't want the Eurosport gods after me. But yeah, Renshaw continued by saying the reaction to that move, with McLay stopping pedalling, was Cavendish deviating to the left with Brian Cocard hard on his wheel. I think both riders, Cav and Cocard, had already committed to jumping to the left, so you've got a rider like Dan McLay who stops pedalling at 70 kilometres an hour. Cavendish in the same moment has already committed to jumping to the left, and that is the reaction from that action. Cavendish is really angry about the decision because he believes it was unfair and that it was an action from McLay coming back. If it wasn't perfect from the team today. We had a really difficult day with Michael Murku going home this morning. Yevgeny Fedorov was not good at all today and dropped early in the stage. Alexei Lutsenko, as we all know, crashed with around 15 kilometres to go. All in all, to finish 5th on today's stage with what happened, I think the team did exceptionally well and they showed big heart today. So that's the view of Renshaw. I'm not sure what we all think of that. I think the Cavendish one is a lot harsher than the Arnaud Démare one. I think Démare was stonewall. Cavendish was a little more of a... Cavendish, you're judging it off half a second maybe. Arnaud Démare was a lot more of a gradual and long-term thing, not a split-second decision. So yeah, I think Cavendish would have probably got a yellow card for that if the new rule was around, but I think Démare would have been relegated if I was the commissaire in that situation. I think as well, with Cavendish being told that his deviations in previous stages were excessive and that he had his warning. I think that might have been the reason as well as to why, the relegation was given out. But that was what Mark Renshaw thought. Of course, sprint consultant, he has his own view on how the sprint goes and gave us a little bit of insight into how Mark Cavendish was feeling about it. But yeah, we are now on the road to the Côte de Blachon, our first categorised difficulty of the day. And if you're Jonas Abrahamsen, you're not going to be able to have your own personalised King of the Mountains jersey because that's going to belong to Tadej Pogačar, barring incident or accident. Given that Abrahamsen is not going to be able to take either of these two climbs unless he has a serious miracle to get across to this leading quartet and make it become a quintet. But the gap being 1 minute 10, if it stays as it is, I don't see Abrahamsen getting into the King of the Mountains jersey for good. He will of course wear it on loan from Tadej Pogačar, but it isn't certifiably his own. But the average speed has been gradually ramping up, as you can see on the Pro Cycling Stats page. And it's meant for an exciting race. We'll see if it continues to rise, with the peloton now catching the Chase group, or the Yates group, we'll call it. But it is still incredibly lined out, and it's UAE and Visma Lease-A-Bike towards the front of this peloton who are putting things into the gutter. And it is another attempt from Visma Lease-A-Bike to get away. Pogačar has to close a little gap to his teammate. But it's serious acceleration from Visma Lease-A-Bike, who are trying to drag a group away. Are the Crosswinds ramping up again? And is this why Visma Lease-A-Bike are going for it? Pogačar now doing turns on the front, and the Crosswinds are getting serious. Nils Pollitt is in the leading group. We've seen this before with Visma Lab. They put UAE on the ropes the last time we had proper Crosswinds. But at the moment, both teams have made it, as have Remco Evenepoel, and we have gaps. The Crosswinds are blowing at 25 kilometers an hour, so once again, we have crosswind chaos. Echelons are forming, and in the lead echelon is Jonas Vingegaard, Tadej Pogačar, and Remco Evenepoel, the top three in GC. They have been closed by a larger group, but Remco Evenepoel is continuing to rip it on the front of the peloton. Hands over to Christophe Laporte, who then transfers the lead of the race to Tish Benoot. The winds continue to blow, and it is causing chaos in the race. Absolute chaos. And we are seeing groups getting dropped. So now's the time to start watching the GC guys. We've also got to watch what sprinters make it into this first echelon. But the main eyes will be on the GC riders. And suddenly, if you're Jonas Abrahamsen, and if you've saved some energy, because he did put a lot of effort into trying to make the initial breakaway go, you perhaps have an opportunity to cause some damage to Pogačar's King of the Mountains jersey and try and get it from the Slovenian. At the rear there was Bruno Armirail, along with one of the Ineos Grenadiers riders. I think it was Turner. But your chase group at the moment contains Vingegaard, Jorgensen, Kelderman, Laporte, Tish Benoot. Tadej Pogacar, of course, is there. Carlos Rodriguez is there, so Ineos have their GC rider in the group. Santiago Buitrago and Jack Haig are Bahrain Victorious' representatives. Pollitt is in there too for UAE, as well as Tim Wellens. Stefan Bissiger in the move, Michael Landa, Ilan van Wilder, Remco Evenepoel, among many, many others. And once again, this race has sparked into life Berlin's of Lotto Destiny, who tried to get into the original breakaway. He's in the leading echelon, and he's going to be very useful if he does take some turns. A real truck of a rider. And we properly have echelons now. Everybody's lined out in diagonal formation, and the gaps are forming. Chiccone's in there for Little Trek. He's safe at the moment. But who isn't is the main question. Matt Stevens is on screen at the moment. I'm sure he's telling Eurosport viewers now about what's going on. But Bernal is there for Ineos Grenadiers, if Pro Cycling Stats is to be believed. But the Crosswinds are go. And once again, it was Visma Lease-A-Bike who were the team that initiated it. They seem incredibly on the ball with the Crosswinds. And perhaps after UAE put the pressure on them, they're trying to reverse that on UAE Team Emirates. Dylan Groenewegen in the Dutch national champions jersey is in the second group, and he's got a teammate in Luka Mezgic with him. So that is big for Jaco Alula. And it is an extensive chase group. 20 seconds behind the breakaway. Pro Cycling Stats say 43 riders. I'm not so sure about that. I think it's easily less than 40, maybe 35-ish. But there is clearly a team that have missed it, because there are very similar coloured jerseys towards the front of the third group on the road. They're at 1 minute and 9 seconds behind the head of the race, according to the race's time gaps. Mathieu van der Poel is well off the back, along with Matteo Sobrero of Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. Victor Campenaerts has made it, and he is currently ripping into the lead at the front of the race. Alberto Bettiol, the Italian national champion for EF, has made it. Ciccone for Little Trek is about to hit the front. Remco Evenepoel hands over to Giulio, who hands over to Tadej Pogacar. So Pogacar is trying to rip another group away, and he has done. But at the moment, it's his UAE Team Emirates teammates that are trying to close it, as well as Uno X, who are trying to stick to this leading group. Pogacar's really giving it some. Hands over to Remco Evenepoel. Yellow jersey hands over to white jersey. I don't see any of Vingegaard towards the front for the moment. Stefan Kung's up there for a Groupama FDJ. I just saw the big figure of the Swissman. Felix Gall has even made it for Decathlon Age Desert. I haven't seen him on screen, but Pro Cycling Stats says so. I'm not going to argue with it for now. And there is Jonas Vingegaard. He is now at the front of this chase group, 14 seconds behind our leading quartet. Kwiatkowski is going to be huge for Carlos Rodriguez if he saves his energy in this breakaway. Has used a lot of it, but is a master of echelons. And I think will be the future road captain of the Ineos Grenadiers. Mark Cavendish has been dropped, Yves Lampard as well, and so has Bart Lemon for Visma Lease-A-Bike. Cavendish does have teammates with him though, at the very least, in the form of Davide Ballerini, who was in the initial breakaway. Kevin Genietz as well there from the initial breakaway, well off the back. But it doesn't look like a Cavendish day Astana have missed the echelons. And are they going to pay the price come the end of today's stage? So both of the big Swiss riders are there, Stefan Küng and Stefan Bissegger. That's going to be useful for this chasing group. And that may be the group that goes to the line. This has been an absolute thriller of a stage so far. It perhaps doesn't have the profile for it. But my word, are you seeing some good racing. Paul Lapeyra is in the third group on the road, as is Chris Nylands. Also there is odd Christian Eiking towards the back of the third group, as well as Intermarché Wanty's Hugo Page. A couple of UAE riders in there as well. And it's bad news for Pavel Sivakov and Adam Yates. So after being out the front, Adam Yates is now dropped in the Crosswinds. So currently in the GC, I will bring it up now. And I will tell you who of which is in this leading split. So Pogačar is in the leading split. Remco Evenepoel is in the leading split. Jonas Vingegaard is in the leading split. So your top three are all there. Joao Almeida has not made it, I don't think. I've not seen him. So he's kind of a question mark for now, but I think I'd have spotted him at this point. So Almeida has not made it, fourth overall. Carlos Rodriguez has made it. Mikel Landa has made it. So at the moment they're standing to gain on Joao Almeida in the GC. Adam Yates hasn't. Juan Ayuso, of course, is out of the race. And Giulio Ciccone and Derek G have both made it in this front group, as has the green jersey of Biniam Girmay. So Girmay is in this leading split. So is Jonas Abrahamsson. Tobias Harland Johannesson is there as well. Pascal Ackermann is in the group if you're looking for a sprint option. They're saying Arnaud Delis. PCS are saying Arnaud Delis is there as well. Mark Cavendish is over a kilometre behind this chasing group on the road at the moment. So it could be game, set and match for him. There's confirmation that Carlos Rodriguez is in the yellow jersey group. But this quartet of riders are going to get reeled in. It was a bold effort from Magnus Cort, and probably the right call as well, to at least get this group off of the front of the race and form a smaller but more committed breakaway. He certainly did that. But it's not going to go all the way to the line, this group of four. And we are now approaching 50 kilometres to go. The echelons have been formed. And they are taking effect. And it is wonderful to watch. Just over 50 kilometres to go then. The chase group 10 seconds behind the leading four. The third group on the road are 52 seconds behind the leading four. And Mark Cavendish is in a group 1 minute and 15 seconds behind the chasers. And the group with the yellow jersey, Tadej Pogačar, second overall, Remco Evenepoel, and third overall, Jonas Vingegaard. Another look behind, and at the moment there's a slight slowing up in the chase. Visma Lease-A-Bike are starting to get tired of controlling it, but Victor Campenaerts gives them an important pull. If Jonas Abrahamsson has made it in the King of the Mountains jersey, with 10 kilometers to go until the foot of the Côte de Plachon, he will be licking his lips at the chance of wearing that jersey for good for one more day. I highly doubt he'll keep it tomorrow. But the leading four have now been caught by the chasing yellow jersey group. So it's over at the front of the race for Kwiatkowski, Bernard, Gregoire and Court. A nice idea that proved to be in vain, but they have actually formed a group off the front that includes the likes of Jonas Abrahamsson. Campanarts is there as well. Bahrain Victorious have representation, as do Little Trek. And I think at the back there it's a Arkea jersey. Could be wrong. But it's all getting a little bit split up as Victor Campanarts continues going incredibly hard at the front of the race. We all love Victor Campanarts. You lost another 2 minutes because of the gosh darn fitness. Cold. Where do you stand at the moment? Where are you in GC on your Tour de France game, TB? You couldn't be bothered with stage 16, 5 to 6 minutes behind P4. That's a nice little summary of things. As I've got a couple of ads. I heard Shoot de Pollitt, which, if Niels Pollitt has crashed, that is sadness for cycling fans globally. But I'm not sure whether he has. Either way, Pollitt back on the bike. Van Wilder needed to change bike. I did hear Shoot de Pollitt et Van Wilder. It just didn't come up on my TV. And then they cut to ads, so... There we are then. Van Wilder crash, Pollitt held up. And Van Wilder needed the bike change. I kind of saw it happening, if it was what I thought it was. But yeah, that was a little bit weird. At least if that was the case. Pollitt didn't fall, okay. So it was just Van Wilder. Thank you for that. These adverts are going on forever. Sure, because when I sim, Vingegaard has fitness and gets second. But when I play myself, I'll have -2. That's classic Tour de France game. Absolutely classic Tour de France game. Well, there we are then. 46 kilometers to go. We've done 120, or yeah, just about. And we are very quickly on the road to our eventual finish line. Which will be quickly approaching in Poel. Of course, a city with rich Tour de France history. Very rich Tour de France history. But I've still got ads. Johannesson is your beloved, winning competitively with 1,800 kilometers. Wowzer. Doing the last 2 stages to secure a polka dot jersey. If you didn't sim, it'd be over 2k. That's nuts. That is nuts. TB, if I can ask, how did you find this channel? Did you find it through the YouTube channel? Did you find it through Twitch? How have you found me? I'm just interested. Like, was I on the Tour de France page, or like what avenue did you use to find this stream? If you recall correctly, you found my YouTube like 2 to 3 years ago. Interesting. Because I saw you were a first-time chatter today, and I was just, yeah, I wanted to know how you'd stumbled across the stream. Anyway, 5 kilometers to the foot of the Côte de Blachon, and I'm about to get a replay of the crash between Poel and Van Wilder, I hope. Yeah, because you promoted the Twitch on the Discord of Lucas. Ah, so you found it through Lucas' Discord. Okay. Good to know. Very good to know. But yeah, we're about to plunge into a descent before the Côte de Blachon. Areas of up to 9%, 6.1% average for just over 1.5 kilometers. Nikias Arndt was the Bahrain rider that was following Victor Campenaerts in the small group that went away, but was quickly reeled in by the group of the yellow jersey. Victor Campenaerts, of course, a rider heavily linked with Visma Lease-A-Bike. And it sounds like those rumours are going to prove true come the end of the season. Here we go then. So it was literally just before the break. And great job. So Poel was caught behind Van Wilder, who crashed on his own. Okay. Well, I've now seen the crash, so I'm up to date. Thank you, ITV4, for providing me with the replay. So I'm now up to live coverage again. Flat stage in Vingegaard has +2 fitness, keeps moulding, but it's my comfort game for real. Yeah, classic case of GC rider has good day on flat stage. I'm sure the sprinter, if you have one, hasn't had a good day. My guess is maybe a -1 or a 0. But it's Visma Lease-A-Bike at the moment who are on the front of the Breakaway. Or the leading group, should I say. That is a horrible little graphic that's come up on the Pro Cycling Stats page. That's not a stream glitch, that is a Pro Cycling Stats page glitch. But it's Kelderman at the moment that is hitting the wind. But the second group are only 20 seconds behind, so I think it's all going to come back together once more. But I'm definitely going to do a couple of changes to stream maybe tomorrow. Pedersen, but he's on 0. So have you signed him for, is it a Visma Lease-A-Bike Pro Team or something. Or is it a custom one? Israel Premier Tech are on the radio. They've said, Ugo, I think it's cool if you can ride. It can't hurt to help keep this away. It's good for us, good for GC, and good for Pascal. We'll keep it steady at the front. Don't let any more larger groups come back. So Israel have sent Hugo Uhl to the front of the leading group, and they're trying to keep the peloton away. A peloton that includes the recently crashed Ilan van Wilde, Marijn van den Berg as well, along with, for Red Bull Bora-Hansgrohe, their sprinter Danny van Poppel, and one of my riders to watch on today's stage. It was a sprint day yesterday, and Cavendish wasn't the only guy to get relegated. Arnaud Démare was also one of the riders involved. This was him speaking before his relegation. So, yeah, this is not up to date. He says he was confused by it in the interviews this morning, but I haven't got those up in text form. Démare said it was really hard to be well positioned at the bottom of the descent because that was very dangerous. So I knew I'd done most of the difficult parts. Everyone did a really good job. And then there was a launch at about 500 metres from the finish line. We didn't want them to overtake us. We had a good launch at 400 metres. I was trying to gain some speed. I could feel I was really pushing, but I believed in it. I saw the line and went for it. I thought I could make it, and then I looked at that finish. It was so close. I felt so far away from this sort of form in the Tour so far, but it is good to be back. Towards the back of this second group as well is, I think that was Chris Nylands, and Group Cavendish have just packed it in. They have now become the Gruppetto. And this is the second group joining up with the lead of the race. So we have a mass group. Now, I'm going to call it a peloton at the head of the race. But once again, this is an opportunity for Jonas Abrahamsen, as Van Wilde has a flat tyre. Ugo continuing to pace on the front of the peloton. Does he really know that the second group have caught him? And off goes Abrahamsen. He's in search of King of the Mountains points, and he's gone with Rasmus Tiller as well for Uno X. One of their riders as well getting onto the radio. So Tiller leads Abrahamsen. Two Lotto Destiny riders have gone up the road as well, one of them being Victor Campenaerts. Visma Lease-A-Bike trying to get a rider in the breakaway there, being tracked by UAE Team Emirates. And at the foot of the Côte de Blachon, once again, we have a race that is kicked off. And it's four riders that have caused it. Two from Lotto Destiny, two from Uno X Mobility, and Mathieu Jorgensen was the Visma Lease-A-Bike rider who tried to get away. Ben Healy was on his wheel. And it looks like Maxim Van Hils and Victor Campenaerts are the Lotto Destiny riders, joining Tiller and Abrahamsen, but they have been reeled in by Ben Healy, who then goes for a move on the right-hand side of the road, followed by Maxim Van Hils. Jonas Abrahamsen could not follow, so Uno X send another rider up the road. And it's all getting a bit messy on the roads of the Tour de France. Maxim Van Hils leads the way from Ben Healy, the Uno X rider that is in that chase. I'm not sure who it is. Richard Carapaz for EF has joined Ben Healy at the front of the race, along with one of the riders from Bahrain Victorious. And Carapaz counters the group So Carapaz with the counter-attack. Is that Johannesson, maybe? That's trying to get onto the wheel? It is. So 750 metres remaining, and we've got 2 climbers in a flat stage breakaway. Richard Carapaz and Tobias Harland Johannesson, as Dylan Groenewegen gets dropped from the leading group. So Groenewegen could not hold on the Côte de Blachon. Bram Velten as well, DSM Phonik Postenel off the back. And Groenewegen has some Jacob Alula teammates alongside him to try and keep him within touching distance of the yellow jersey group. Johannesson and Carapaz continue though. Christoph now being dropped off the back with Danny van Poppel. There is Groenewegen. And he does have with him Luke Durbridge. But for now, it's 2 riders that lead the way. Richard Carapaz of Ecuador and EF Education Easy Post. And Tobias Harland Johannesson of Norway and UnoX Mobility. UnoX, of course, the Norwegian team. With the King of the Mountains in the second group on the road. He's not going to get any points on the Côte de Blachon. Perhaps saving himself for the final climb of the day, the Simacorbe. But it's Johannesson that goes over the line and takes 1 point at the summit of the Côte de Blachon, the 4th category climb. And there will be one more climb that's categorised, at least, to be negotiated today. 38 kilometres remaining. At the moment, if we stay as we are, we should be finishing before 4:15 my time. Johannesson, my goat. He will win tomorrow from Break. This is GC Johannesson, as you said, TB. All we need is Arnaud Delete to win the stage. And we've got the dream scenario. Arnaud Demar towards the back of the group, along with Frank van den Broek. So that's trouble for the French sprinter. Is Valentin Madouas, is Luca Mozzato in that group, however. Rui Costa as well towards the back with Arnaud Demar. As well as Groupama FDG's Romain Gregoire from the breakaway. But Carapaz and Johannesson continue their attempt at holding out. So they've only got 11 seconds on the peloton, led by Visma Lease-A-Bike. But they are cooperating together. Intriguing seeing Carapaz at the front of the race on a stage like this. Again, very odd tactics from EF, and I'm not sure what they're doing by any means. Everybody behind him will fall now except for Deli. See, this is the TB plan in full swing. The team of UnoX will drop banana peels on the track. We'll get some crisps for this in a sec. It is a good race to get some snacks and watch along. I've had all of mine while the microphone's been muted. So with Dylan Groenewegen dropped, this was what his sports director Matt White was saying after yesterday's stage. He said it was always going to be tough. Not tough. It was always going to be touch and go for the pure sprinters, like Dylan Groenewegen, just because of the brutality of the stage. The first 100 kilometres was pretty hard. We had temperatures of 35 degrees. The last 100 kilometres were flat. And then when talking about the upcoming stage, he said, it looks like Groenewegen was pinned in a bit before the finish of yesterday, but at the end of the day, we didn't execute it well enough, which is a shame, because we are running out of sprint opportunities. And with Groenewegen being dropped, he might have one less sprint opportunity on the menu. On a Tour de France, third week at least, that is not very sprinty at all. It's a day for the hilly sprinters on stage 18. Stage 16, the first day after the rest day, is the only sprint opportunity for the purer guys left. So Matt White is absolutely correct. There isn't much time left if you're a pure sprinter and you want something from this Tour de France. Dylan Groenewegen, of course, has already won a stage. However, he is after one more to add to the collection in the Dutch national champions jersey. Of course, Groenewegen, a prolific winner at the Tour de France, 6 stage wins in total. And here was what he had to say at the end of yesterday. I think a lot of guys were suffering already from the start of the race, but I think in the end we had a plan. We didn't follow that plan, however, so now we need to have a good meeting. Let's see what everybody says, because everybody has a story. So we'll have a good meeting and we'll try again tomorrow. They might have had a good meeting, but at the moment, as PCS is saying there, Groenewegen and Van den Berg, 2 of the Dutch sprinting contingent on this Tour de France, are out of the back of the yellow jersey group, which is 15 to 20 seconds behind Richard Carapaz and Tobias Harland Johannesson in the lead of this race. 34.5 kilometres to go. The group of Groenewegen is at just under 40 seconds. So they've got around 20 seconds to make up on the peloton. But there are plenty of sprinters in there. Christophe Velten, Dan McLay, who's a key lead-out man for Arnaud Demar, who will also be in that group, you'd suspect, given how hard he was working to stay in the peloton. But that is the race situation. And we've got 4 kilometres until we reach the foot of the final climb of the day. In this third group on the road then, that is Bram Velten at the back of it, as well as Elmar Reinders for Jaco Alula. He's got Luke Durbridge with him, so 2 Jaco Alula teammates are in there. For Total Energy is Sandy Dujardin, so that's another sprinter for one of the teams in this third group on the road. So plenty of teams with ideas of the stage win are in this third group on the road, and they are battling to stay with the yellow jersey group. Mark Cavendish has called it a day. He is in a group well behind and focusing on staying within the time limit at this point. I'm sure they will, because he looked fairly fresh. And because the race has been so incredibly on from kilometre 0, I think you'll get a lot of tired bodies crossing the line. Which, I mean, it's exactly what you want before 2 big mountain stages, which of course will be live streamed on this channel on Saturday and Sunday. So we should have a really entertaining battle ahead of us as Tish Benoit leads the peloton. A couple of UAE riders marking the 2 Visma Lease-A-Bike riders at the head of the peloton. But Carapaz and Johannesson continue at the front of the race. A few more quotes to get through then, and we'll be looking at riders who should have more of a say in the stage win come the end of today into Poel. First one being Wout Van Aert, one of my riders to watch for the day. He said, "I'm disappointed because I was boxed in between Arnaud Demar and the barrier. I should watch back what happened, but I had to relaunch my sprint and I still came really close to the victory. When I didn't have to stop pedalling, I had a really good chance today. Looking to my performance, it feels like a good second place. I had some doubts, especially yesterday, but this morning I felt better. I hoped to come through this stage, but luckily I felt good on the bike and then I wanted to give it a try. Luckily I did because I came really close. It was a tricky sprint again where I could have ended better. I'm not going to say it's my fault because I chose the right side, but it was a messy sprint. None of the teams did a great lead out. There were many different riders at the front and I was wheel surfing very well. I started the sprint in great position on the wheel of Demar. I looked back in the sprint and saw his lead out swing off. He could just sprint in a straight line, but he chose to go to the right where I was already, and I had to stop pedalling and go on the other side. Still then, I only lost by half a wheel to Biniam Girmay, so that is unfortunate. My back and my hip are quite sore. Yesterday it was especially the arm that we were quite worried about, but this was quite okay. I could only feel it on the bike on some bumpy roads, but we could see yesterday that there were no fractures, so it probably needs some time to heal. It's also important to take away the good things from today, and I'm happy that I felt good again. I hope it stays like this, and I can forget about yesterday as soon as possible. I feel really sorry for him, Primož Roglič. He had so much bad luck like this already before. The GC shouldn't be decided on stages like this. There was not too much stress, but there was a really tricky village that we passed through in the final, with some middle sections that were way too dangerous to just be there. That could have been signalled better, I guess, or taken away. I feel really sorry for Primož. I hope he is okay and can continue the race. As Bardet has trouble and will require the neutral service motorbike. Looks like a back wheel problem for Romain Bardet. But we've got 1.2 kilometres to go until the top of the Côte de Simacourbe. 26 seconds between the peloton and the head of the race. And Bardet is continuing to ride on with that wheel issue. The pace is not electric in the peloton at the moment. They're keeping Carapaz and Johannesson on a short leash, but they are by no means pushing it hard. So with some assistance, I reckon Bardet could make it onto the back of this peloton once again, depending on how quick the wheel change is, of course. If he just gets a spare bike and whatnot, that's fine. But Carapaz and Johannesson are at the front of the race. 800 metres until the top of the climb. 29.8 kilometres left until the end of today's stage, where we should see a reduced bunch sprint, which is my second favourite scenario stage after the breakaway winning. And Bardet's having some on-road repairs and is sent off on his way again. So can the Frenchman make it back to the peloton? Gets a lovely sticky bottle from the DSM-Firmenich-Postenel car. And that was fairly simple. Back onto the peloton, Romain Bardet gets, thanks to a very handy sticky bottle from DSM-Firmenich-Postenel. Johannesson and Carapaz continue cooperating together. This is a bad sign for Jonas Abrahamsen, who is not going to take the King of the Mountains jersey after his efforts on today's stage. Getting into the initial breakaway of the day and trying to get involved in a chase group with the likes of Tom Stroyns of the leading four on the road. Sylvain Dillier's up there and is willing to do a bit of pacing. I can see Brian Coquard is also in the peloton, as well as Felix Gall. So Coquard is there as a sprinter. Dillier towards the front is telling me that Jasper Philipsen is also there. Biniam Girmay, I believe, is there as well. Has Arnaud Delis hung on? Is another question that I'm asking myself. But at the moment, the focus is on the top of the Côte de Simacourbe, fourth category climb. Another point to be taken by Tobias Harland Johannesson. The Carapaz King of the Mountains bid lasted approximately half of stage 11 and seemingly is back off again. Dillier continues pushing the pedals at the front of the peloton, however. He's going to go over the top of the fourth category climb with less than 30 seconds to close to our leading duo on the road. Looking back through the peloton, I can see Arnaud Delis, he's there. Biniam Girmay is definitely there in the green jersey. Alberto Bettiol still there in the Italian national champions colours. Perhaps it might be an idea to watch out as well for Ryan Gibbons, South African national champion lead-out man, usually for Mads Pedersen. But the group of Groenewegen is not going to make it back, and it's Dylan Groenewegen doing the pacing on the front of his own group at the moment. The Jaco Alula teammates of Elmar Reinders and Luke Durbridge cannot help him anymore, and he is now thinning the group out to Dujardin, Christophe and Bram Velten on his wheel. It's going to be a big effort, but I don't think it's going to be an effort that will be worth it come the end of today's stage. 27.8 kilometres remain then on stage 13 of this Tour de France. 26 seconds between the peloton and the breakaway. Dylan Groenewegen is 1.5 minutes behind Richard Carapaz and Tobias Harlan Johannesson, who lead this race. Stefan Bissiger with a mechanical problem. He's going to get a bike change from the EF car. But that's a big flat rouleur who is no longer in use, and somebody who EF perhaps would have been going for in the sprint, either him or Alberto Bettiol, with Marijn van den Berg dropped. But continuing to press on in the peloton is Sylvain Dillier, who we've seen a lot of at the front of the peloton, putting in work for Jasper Philipsen. But Dillier continues. Pretty much the whole UAE team situated on his wheel with two Visma Lease-A-Bike jerseys. And we are just reaching the bottom of the descent for Carapaz and Johannesson. At the moment, I'd say this is a lost cause for Groenewegen. What's happened, TB? What's with the capital lettering? Kuhn was in the breakaway, I see what's going on here. Kuhn was in the breakaway, did a celebration because he thought he'd won, then Merlier overtook him. That's tough. I've never seen the AI do that. In Paris. Oof. That is tough. Wow, I've never seen the AI do that. Celebrate and lose. Wow. I might play more of the game then to figure that one out and see if I can get that myself. I am planning to get back to the game after this Tour de France. Currently, I'm putting all of my efforts into making this stream watchable, of course, with the quotes and stuff and general classification graphics and all of that. And we'll go to one of those shortly with 25 kilometres remaining. I think we will pick one of the Intermarché Wanty contingent, especially with the green jersey Biniam Girmay being in the leading group. Got like 70 hours in it. You get that long. Intriguing. Very intriguing. But this is Director Sportif of the Intermarché Wanty team, Eike Visbeek, speaking after stage 12. Girmay's third win at this Tour de France. Visbeek said, "The third one was the plan with confidence that we wanted to execute, and I think the guys did a brilliant job in the beginning. We wanted a hard stage. There were only 2 guys in the front at the beginning, so we wanted to bring it back and get good guys at the front. And that happened. 4 strong riders went up the road. From then on, it was 160 kilometres of roller coaster racing. It was hard in the bunch, it got warmer and warmer, and that gave Biniam Girmay some really good circumstances. In the end, we lost half the lead out in the crash, so that was a bit unfortunate. But Mike Turnison kept fighting and could find Biniam. He wasn't in a good position, but when we knew it ramped up towards the end a bit, and in these stages, he's the fastest at the moment. Firstly, he had less pressure on him coming into the Tour, that is Biniam. We let him find his own way, and once he had that stage win out the way, you could see that he started to be calmer. Today also he's very focused, but he's not panicking, and that sounds very easy, but that's a big step. For a sprinter, it's incredibly important that you're willing to lose a sprint but stay calm and focused and find those openings which will come. In that sense, he's coming of age. With the crashes and long periods out, he missed some sprints, so lacked opportunities to learn sprinting. Last year he finished the Tour with a 3rd place and a 6th place in Paris. He paid his learning money, and I think it's now paying dividends as he's calmer and more confident in the sprint. I think 3 times now we've been there where Biniam needs the team, and that's already huge because it's so chaotic in the sprints. We bought 2 strong debutants in Udo Page and Lawrence Rex, and we really focused on that. We wanted really strong guys in front of Biniam to get a good position and stay there, because in the Tour you always have a bad position in the chaos, but if you have extra power you can create better circumstances, and that is what they did very well, so I'm proud. Why not do the same again tomorrow? We're very happy. We're first going to celebrate today, and it's a new day tomorrow. Somebody who's not going to do it tomorrow is Sylvain Dillier. He has been dropped by the peloton, which is now led by Lotto Destiny. Victor Campenaerts leads the way. He's got Arnaud Delis on his wheel. I can see Pascal Ackermann in the German national champions armbands towards the front of the peloton, so he is there as a sprinter. He's got Jake Stewart as well, his lead-out man. So Pascal Ackermann might be one to watch on a stage like this. Victor Campenaerts continues pressing on the front though, and the gap is below 20 seconds. Campenaerts out the saddle and properly trying to get some distance between the sprinters. And the group of Dylan Groenewegen have knocked all pace out of their chase. So that is that for the likes of Groenewegen, for the likes of Christoph, Van Poppel, and various others. Bram Velten too. Stewart being there for Pascal Ackermann is very interesting indeed. And Pogacar is there as well, tracking the wheel of Jonas Vingegaard. In this case, a difference to previous stages where Vingegaard has been on the wheel of Pogacar. Campenaerts continues pressing on at the front, however. He's got Arnaud Delis at 3rd wheel, Maxim Van Hill's 2nd wheel. So 3 Belgians on the Belgian team going for the victory of the Belgian national champion in the sprint. They've got 22.3 kilometres to hold out, which is very difficult for 3 riders. But it looks like they will catch the breakaway. I'm not sure whether they want to do it this early though, with 22 kilometres remaining. Johannes and Carapaz have decided enough is enough. And that's the end of their conquest. 6 seconds is the gap. That will come down very quickly. I'm sure of that. But I think this is slowly falling into the hands of Israel Premier Tech. We've seen Christoph get dropped. We've seen Bram Velten get dropped. We've seen Arnaud Demar and Dan McLay dropped. Marijn van den Berg, Danny Van Poppel, Phil Bauhaus, Lepera, Dylan Groenewegen as well. Bram Velten, I already said him, actually, thinking about it. And Mark Cavendish have all been distanced. So this is an opportunity for the lesser sprinters to try and get one over on Biniam Girmay. That's going to be the main trouble. for those that have not won a sprint stage as of yet. Campanart's hands over. Lotto Destiny have got another rider now towards the front. It looks like Cedric Berlins. But Berlins continues to press on. Hands over to Maxim van Hils, who pulls the next turn. 3 little Trek riders up there. They've also got Ryan Gibbons if it comes down to sprint. But once again, it's Victor Campanarts, this time controlling the tempo and ensuring nobody attacks off of this pace. Mathieu Bourgadeau is in the front group. Pretty miraculous that he's made it after all of his efforts right at the start of this stage. Well over 2 hours ago now. On a stage that has flown by, an average speed of 51.5 kilometres an hour as we go underneath 20 kilometres to go. Yates clinging on to the back of the peloton. Another UAE rider in there is Marc Soler, not towards the front, but it's Visma Lease-A-Bike that have upped the tempo. Currently, the white jersey of Remco Evenepoel is fine and in good position. Here's what he had to say at the end of yesterday's stage. Evenepoel said it was pretty nervous and hectic. There was a lot of road furniture and it was fast coming into the last 5 kilometres. I knew I had to be in front and it proved to be a good decision. As a GC guy, you never have a day off, and I think it's proven today, unfortunately. Today was pretty tough. The start wasn't easy, especially with a big fight for the breakaway again. Alpecin put on a very hard pace in the hilly section, so it was a tough one today, but in the end I started to feel better towards the end, so that is good. Hopefully tomorrow is another good day, and then come the Pyrenees. And Remco's right, the Pyrenees are coming up. We've got an attack on the right-hand side of the road. It's Total Energy. Please tell me that's Bourgadeau. That is back from the dead, Undertaker-style moment. I don't think it is. It's Grelier. It's Grelier and it's Stuyven that are away at the front of the race, and it is Lotto Destiny that are trying to pick it up and follow this duo. Stuyven gradually dropping Grelier off the wheel. Doing a bit of a wolf, as Victor Campanarts would say. But you've got yourself attacks once more. Stuyven, Grelier, and I think that is Berlins trying to bridge across. And it's Visma Lease-A-Bike and UAE Team Emirates controlling. I'm not sure whether Visma Lease-A-Bike want this to come back. Do they have Wout Van Aert in the group? I haven't seen a Red Bull helmet as of yet in a Visma Lease-A-Bike jersey. Could be wrong though. But I don't think they want this coming back, because even Pogacar could nick a couple of bonus seconds if he goes for the sprint at the line. With the amount of sprinters that have been dropped and how difficult of a day it's been. Either way, Visma continue controlling. Stuyven, Van Moor and Grelier. So it was Brent Van Moor, that's towards the front for Lotto Destiny. And has found himself in a leading group of 3 riders. So 3 riders away at the front, 2 Belgians and a Frenchman. Legend of the channel, hero of the channel, Fabien Grelier is in there as well. 17.7 kilometres to go, 5 seconds between the leaders and the peloton. The peloton just under 100 metres behind this breakaway group. Led by Visma Lease-A-Bike, they have got 4 riders towards the front. And I thought that was Total Energy planning another attack. Fabien Grelier is absolutely dying to stay on the wheel of this leading duo, Stuyven and Van Moer. Van Moer, who has won a stage at the Critérium du Dauphiné. That was a more rolly, hilly stage. Jasper Stuyven, of course, winner of Milano-San Remo, has not won, however, on the road since that Milano-San Remo win. Came very close on the gravel stage. Ultimately ended up being caught by the first time I've seen Group 2 working together well. But it's Israel Premier Tech that come to the front. They want to sprint with Pascal Ackermann, as the trio have 10 seconds now on the peloton. Grelier pulling some turns now, so all three of them working together. Fabien Grelier, of course, the odd one out, having not won a major World Tour race in his career. Probably his best result was second in the Tour of Oman. And a man who's been with Total Energy since 2016. Israel Premier Tech on the radio saying, very good Jake Stewart. Very good Jake. G, Pascal, come on guys, you guys are good. We can win this race today. Come on guys. So motivation through the radio of Israel Premier Tech. And this is probably the best chance that Pascal Ackermann has got to try and take home a stage victory. One more sprint stage as we were discussing with Dylan Groenewegen's interview. And that comes the stage after the rest day. Currently at the back of the peloton for Uno X. That is, give me a second, get my start list up. Oh, we've got a tax though. I shall ignore that because Grelier has been dropped and attacked by Jasper Stuyven. Brent Van Moer sticking to the wheel. Of course, Brent Van Moer's been in the breakaway today. Been worked very hard. The Victor Campanarts vlog after today's stage is going to be an entertaining one to watch, I can assure that, as we've got an attack on the right-hand side of the road from what looks like Decathlon Agen Desert, followed by Intermarché 1T, who have tracked that move down. It was Stefan Kung, actually, for Groupama FDJ, which explained why he couldn't get a gap. Sorry, that was a tap-in. But if you're Jonas Vingegaard, you might want to slip into one of these moves that goes away and put some pressure on the yellow jersey. Here's what Tadej Pogačar had to say after yesterday's stage. We heard a crash, but it was quite stressful in the finish already, so I had no clue who went down. Immediately after the finish, they said that Primoz went down, and I was just really devastated because he was in really good shape, and I've seen him progressing throughout the stages. I think he would really be fighting for it in the final, and it's really sad to see him crash today. I think he lost quite some time. I hope he's fine. Normally he's a big fighter, and maybe he'll bounce back and win some stages or something. Let's see. I was expecting more tired legs, but it was quite good. Today was pretty fast up and down. I preferred today's pace than 2 days ago, where we rode super easy, so the legs kept turning and the team did a super good job. It was a bit hot in the final, but we survived well. Tomorrow is another sprint. It may be another windy and stressful day like we've had so many times in this tour. Then we finally go to the Pyrenees. I don't know what happened in the first part of the race. There was a bit of a crash. Somebody hit me from behind and I tried to put the chain back on. When I finally put it back on, the wheels didn't turn, so I think something was wrong with the bike. Then I got a new bike and continued the stage. I have no injuries. Somebody hit me from the back, but it's going to be fine. And Pogačar was right, because the winds were blowing today, and it was a hectic and stressful stage for the GC riders. The difference was that it was the GC rider for Visma Lease-A-Bike. Jonas Vingegaard was put in trouble in the early parts of the stage, thanks to Adam Yates slipping into the breakaway. Clever move from UAE Team Emirates, who haven't done as much work on this stage as their Visma Lease-A-Bike counterparts, and that is not something you say often. Marc Soler right at the back of the peloton though for the Emirati team. And he's looking perhaps for some assistance from the team car. As Jasper Philipsen and Brent Van Moer press on, they've dropped Fabien Grelier, who has been caught and reeled in by the peloton now. And we have our two Belgians leading the way. 12.5 kilometres remaining. 14 seconds, the gap between the peloton and the front of the race then. And that gap is closing because we've got Uno X on the front at the moment with Magnus Cort. Hands over to Visma Lease-A-Bike with Wilco Kelderman. Tish Benoot on the wheel of the Dutch rider, along with Mathieu Jorgensen and Christophe Laporte. Perhaps going for Laporte today, seemingly, with Wout Van Aert dropped, but Mathieu Bergerot attacks for Total Energy off of this tempo. Christophe Laporte tries to follow, and that is a big rider that you'd want to keep track of. And at the moment, it's Arkea B&B Hotels that are doing that, and Guillaume Boivin is trying to make it across as well. Magnus Cort there too for Uno X Mobility. And a little bit of a gap forming as the Arkea rider cannot hold on to the wheel of Christophe Laporte, who is stuck to the back of Mathieu Bergerot like glue. But this race has really shattered now. And Bergerot has bridged the gap to the front of the race. This is an inspired move from the Frenchman, who's going to go straight around Jasper Philipsen and Brent Van Moer. Stuyven's going to have to close this gap. But Bergerot continues. This could be an inspired move from Total Energy. They've not got a sprinter in the race with their man Sandy Dujardin dropped. He's in the Dylan Groenewegen group. So they have to try this. And they are doing so with Grelier and then Bergerot. Christophe Laporte sticking to the wheel of Bergerot, who slots into third in this train. Jasper Stuyven followed by Brent Van Moer in second. But it looks like it's going to get reeled in. But not if Mathieu Bergerot has anything to say about it. He goes once more. And this time Christophe Laporte tries his best to follow this move. It's on a brief downhill portion. And Bergerot hits out. It's Cofidis on the front trying to close this, along with Israel Premier Tech. The final 10 kilometres is on a false flat downhill, so it's going to be a very, very quick run into Poel. The scene of many a Tour de France stage before. Another chapter will be written in that book. In 10.5 kilometres time, will Biniam Girmay take his fourth victory on the road? Will Arnaud Delis find his first victory in the Belgian national champions jersey? We've got a team radio coming up from Total Energy, which says, "This is perfect, guys. This is perfect. It will open the race up." And that is the tactic. That's what you've got to be doing if you're Total Energy. And they are playing it superbly right now. Richard Carapaz just off the back for EF Education Easy Post. He tried in the initial move after the yellow jersey caught up to the head of the race with Tobias Harlan Johannesson. Wout Van Aert is in this group, so this is massive now. We've got another sprinter involved, and he's sat on the wheel of Victor Campenaerts, who is increased the tempo in that super aero position. Victor Campenaerts, Wout Van Aert on the wheel, who pulls a turn, intriguingly. Perhaps looking behind, trying to have gotten a gap. In the end, nothing has come of it. Jonas Vingegaard and Tadej Pogačar up towards the front of this first group. And this is a fascinating situation that is unfolding. Campenaerts gets into the praying mantis position. Hands on the hoods. arms kind of rested on the handlebars. No gap has formed, but it's certainly stringing out the head of the race and making it difficult. We've seen riders attacking off of the tempo, and I think Cavendish is just trying to increase that tempo so he has a sprint for the Belgian national champion Arnaud Delis. Marc Soler has been dropped along with Rui Costa, as Geraint Thomas has been distanced too. He's done a decent amount of work. The first time I've seen him do a decent amount of work in this Tour de France. And we've got attacks on the left-hand side. Once again, Little Trek, and once again, Christophe Laporte sits in the wheel. Two more riders follow. Lotto Destiny represented, along with Uno X Mobility. And it's Jasper Stuyven once more that initiated this attack. Uno X trying to chase this down. Arkea BMB have joined up with Stuyven at the head of the race. Geraint Thomas has gone kaput, and he is out of the back of the leading group. But we do have a gap between the leading group and the group of the yellow jersey. Magnus Cort has been awarded most combative rider. I'd say that's deserved. Unlike some of the combativity awards given out in this race, as a mechanical problem for Tiller. So Tiller has been distanced, but that's because of a mechanical issue. He might have been looking forward to sprinting at the end of this stage. I'd have said it was either him or Magnus Cort. Of course, with Cort being in the early breakaway, he will have been a little more tired. But once again, we start to get into colour order at the front of this race. Jonas Vingegaard has two teammates with him, one of which being Wout Van Aert. But he is right at the front of affairs at the moment, as this is Movistar who increase their tempo now. Is Gaviria still in this group? I wouldn't think so. But somebody who is Arnaud Démare. I thought he'd been dropped. He doesn't have Dan McClay with him, but Arnaud Démare might have to freelance this on his own, and that is a big worry for some of the other sprinters in this group. A rider who was really up towards the front on yesterday's stage, of course, got relegated. But he is up towards the front of affairs, as is Biniam Girmay in the green jersey and Wout Van Aert. So your front three yesterday are your front three on the road today in terms of sprinting talent at the front of this leading group. Can Biniam Girmay take number 4? If you're judging it based off current form, Girmay will be your man. But it is a slightly technical final 2 kilometres. Brian Cocard, of course, is in there. Pascal Ackermann there too. Arnaud Delis. So you do have a lot of sprinters, but how much will be left in the lanes? It's been a short stage, but it's been a sharp stage. As we go underneath 5 kilometres to go. Not long now until the end of today's stage. At the back of this leading group is Pavel Sivakov. He's going to be happy that he's positioned Tadej Pogačar well, as is Joao Almeida towards the back of that leading group. The 3 kilometre rule is in effect today, so as long as the GC guys get to 3 kilometres, they will be fine and not lose any time if there is a crash or mechanical problem. But on the right hand side then it's Visma Lease-A-Bike who are lighting it up from the way they're looking. And from the right hand side on TV camera, it's UAE Team Emirates now who have made their move towards the front. Perhaps stringing it out to keep Tadej Pogačar away from danger. And it is a very technical section that they've just gone into now. Pogačar traverses it, as does the rest of the leading group. Jonas Abrahamsen still there for Uno X in the polka dot jersey. He did an immense lead out for Uno X, and that is David Gaudu dropping off the back of the peloton. probably looking at stage wins in the third week. Or the other mountain stages, as Magnus Cort Nielsen is off the back as well. But now it's starting to get hectic within the final 4 kilometres now, and UAE Team Emirates are just trying to pilot Tadej Pogačar to that 3 kilometres to go point. Jasper Philipsen is in there, so we've got plenty of sprinting talent. Philipsen, of course, stage winner at this race. Biniam Girmay, stage winner at this race. Is it going to be Philipsen versus Girmay again, or will one of the other sprinters have their opportunity in the sun? It is fairly overcast on the route at the moment, but it's about to get fiery. Ryan Gibbons is up there for Little Trek. He's got 2 riders that can form a lead out, but Abrahamsen attacks off the front. This is a concerted effort from Jonas Abrahamsen. This is not a lead out. This is an attempt at an attack, seemingly in the final 3 kilometres. Abrahamsen's lit this one up. Can anybody follow? UAE Team Emirates are not able to follow, and they've done their job. They're underneath the 3 kilometres to go banner. Abrahamsen's gone go, and it's time for somebody to try and catch him. At the moment, it's Lotto Destiny doing that right-hand side. They've got Arnaud Delis at second wheel, but they are using up their men to try and catch the polka dot jersey, who is away at the front of this race with 2.5 kilometres remaining. It's not a big gap, but it's 1 versus 1 at the moment. And once the Lotto Destiny rider pulls off, it's going to be down to Delis to close it. Biniam Girmay just slots onto the back of his Intermarché Wanty teammate, so he has a lead-out man at the very least to work with. Lotto Destiny shut this one down. Massive ride from them all day today. Getting Delis into the breakaway, getting Brent Van Meer into the breakaway, Campanarts being on the front and forcing the issue in the echelons. Now Nils Pollitt comes towards the front. Tadej Pogačar might want a piece of the day, actually, given how they are riding at the moment. And it's all getting a bit hectic. Shoulders being given out left, right and centre, but it's Intermarché Wanty now going through the centre and overtaking Pollitt in the UAE train. He pulls off. Will Tadej Pogačar slot onto the wheel of a sprinter? He is still towards the front of affairs at the moment. Left-hand side, Israel Premier Tech trying to move riders up for Pascal Ackermann, the German sprinter. But 4 riders now in this Intermarché Wanty train. They've timed it to perfection and they've got the bodies towards the front. Intermarché Wanty, 1.5 kilometres remaining. It's going to be them in the driving seat by the looks of things. Right-hand side moving up is Christophe Laporte. He's piloting Wout Van Aert. The Belgian rider currently fighting with the Belgian team, Intermarché Wanty. Crucial left-hander. Intermarché get through first, but Biniam Girmay's bogged down. Slots back into position. Loses a couple of places on the road. Intermarché still at the front, but Christophe Laporte sat handsomely in second wheel. Arnaud Demar trying to move up for Arkea B&B Hotels, and we are into the final kilometre. We are underneath the Flamme Rouge, and Arnaud Demar is in the box seat, currently behind. Massive crash in the peloton. Delis caught behind it as we try and switch to the front of the race. Currently out of that crash, though, is Wout Van Aert. He's safe and at the front of the peloton, sat second wheel on Christophe Laporte at the moment. Bahrain have slotted their rider into third position in this train. Ackermann sat fourth. Girmay also in there for Intermarché Circus Wanty. Less than 400 metres to go now, and at 300 metres to go, Van Aert lights it up, but Philipsen through the middle. Philipsen through the middle. Van Aert right-hand side. Philipsen closes Van Aert on the right-hand side, but it's a safe move this time. Van Aert slots onto the wheel. Can he get round his Belgian counterpart? Ackermann third wheel, but Philipsen's got the edge on Wout Van Aert. Philipsen wins the stage. The crash in the final 3 kilometres, we'll see who was caught up in it. But Philipsen takes stage win number 2 ahead of Wout Van Aert in second. It looked like Pascal Ackermann in third. But it was a crash involving an Astana rider. Girmay came in 4th position. So Philipsen gains points on Girmay and wins the stage. It's his second stage win at this race. Biniam Girmay comes across the line fourth. Remco Evenepoel was caught up behind that crash. Everybody will be given 0 seconds though because they made it within the final 3 kilometres. TB's had a shocker because he said everybody in the peloton would crash but not Delete. In the end, most of the peloton made it through but Delete didn't. This looks like Arkea B&B tells right, Kevin Vauquelin was with him. I wonder whether it was Demar. I don't think it was. Actually, it looks to be Amaury Capio, maybe? I'm trying to see his number. Yes, it's Amaury Capio. So, another Belgian caught up in that crash, and he doesn't look too good in the race. Ambulance was with him. So I'll update you on his condition during tomorrow's stream, I'm guessing. Unless there's a clip of him walking into the ambulance. But I'm getting a replay of the sprint now on my TV feed. And, oh, it was a huge shunt. Van Hill's trying to move up right-hand side. Capio closes the door, unaware of Van Hill's moving up at a rate of knots. I'm slightly worried by the Astana rider who found himself in a pretty terrible position on his back. Either way, the sprint from above, and Philipsen was first to launch and he was rocketing. Got a slight gap between his rear wheel and Van Aert's front wheel. Van Aert in the draft tried to come around, but it was far too late. And the strongest sprinter won on the day. In the end, the big three were Philipsen, Van Aert and Ackermann. Biniam Girmay won the sprint for fourth. As Philipsen gave Van Aert the big stare down across the line. So here's the result then. Philipsen from Van Aert, Ackermann in third, Girmay at fourth for Intermarché 1T. Nikias Arndt, good sprint from him to finish fifth for Bahrain Victorious. And Tim Wellens of UAE Team Emirates in sixth. Clement Rousseau, FDJ in seventh with Brian Cocard eighth. Was that Pogacar ninth? And Vardenschuld in 10th. So Philipsen takes his second win on what has been a super stage. It was Pogacar in ninth. Intriguing. It had drama at the start, it had late drama, it had crosswind drama. All of the drama you could possibly want packed into today's stage. I don't think there will be any relegation police out, and that is the beauty of a reduced bunch sprint. Perhaps there may be some trouble for Maxim Van Hils though, after taking out Amaury Capio, and it looked really nasty for Capio. But that's the end of today's stage. Let's have a look ahead to tomorrow then. And here it is. It's a biggie. Pau, our finishing town today, is the start town of Saturday's stage. And we've got 3 big climbs on the menu. Starting off, Col du Tourmalet, 19 kilometres at 7.4%. Then we hit the descent of that, and once we reach the bottom, we're immediately at the front foot of the Roquette d'Oncizan. 8.2 kilometres, 5.1%. Then a very short valley to the foot of the Pla d'Ade, 10.6 kilometres at nearly 8% average. This is the first chance that we will get to properly see the GC guys on a summit finish. Vingegaard versus Pogacar, and after all of that work from Visma Lease-A-Bike, coming home in second with Wout Van Aert, and trying to track down Adam Yates. How will they be feeling entering the stage tomorrow? We didn't quite have time to get through Biniam Girmay's quotes, which I think tells you how good of a stage it's been today. But that is what we've got on the menu tomorrow. And if that can have as much drama as we've had today, then it will be an absolute classic on the roads of the Tour de France. 4,000 metres of vertical gain in total in 152 kilometres of racing. The battle for the breakaway will be on in Poel, and I hope to be there for the whole of the race. But that will come tomorrow. And here is your result then. Just for confirmation purposes. Jasper Philipsen wins the stage ahead of Wout Van Aert. Pascal Ackermann once again up there in third place, with Biniam Girmay pocketing some more green jersey points in fourth. And that is all we've got time for on today's stream. Arnaud Démare coming in 14th position for Arkea B&B Hotels. Martin Van Hills in 12th. Will he stay in 12th position though after his incident with Amaury Capiot? But there we are. That is all we've got for today's stage then. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I did. It was an absolute classic today. But yeah, I will see you tomorrow for it all over again and another live stream. It's been nice to have Mika and TB alongside us for the journey, as well as Vicky for a short period, but she's obviously gone to find somewhere that was streaming the stage finish. But yeah, that's all we got time for today. Over 3.5 hours in the books, I'll take that. On a very quick stage, won by Jasper Philipsen. I'll go and get you some quotes for tomorrow, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.